I'm your teacher Aishwarya, and as you know, today, as a part of our ongoing series Crash Course 2.0, we are going to be discussing complete A to Z of the chapter Control and Coordination. So I hope all of you here are super duper excited for today's class. I hope all of you have your notebooks and pens ready with you, your textbooks open with you, because as you know, today's class is going to be a 3 to 4 hour long marathon where we will discuss everything about this chapter, right from its important concepts, end to end important subjective questions, objective mentee questions, and we will wind up with some important tricks. So I hope all of you today are excited. Yes, hello and welcome to the class, everyone. If you are new to my class, if this is the first time and this is the first video that you are watching on BYJU'S 9th and 10th grade channel, I welcome you to this amazing YouTube channel where we only think about our students and we only think about what is best for you and what you need, which is why we have the ongoing Crash Course 2.0. So I hope all of you are excited today. Everybody quickly make sure that you hit the like button because that's how you show us your love, right? And everybody please let me know if my audio, my video and my screen and what I'm writing on the screen is visible to all of you. If it is, give me a quick thumbs up, everyone. Yes, Ananya, if your second pre-board is tomorrow, I wish you all the very best. I know that you will do well. Yes, hello Mariam, Jisman, I can see that there's Himanji, Kushi, Aniket, Karthik, amazing. Lot of you are here already and a lot more of our friends who are yet to join. Good evening, Vaishnavi. Good evening. Yes, everyone. Okay. So now one sincere request for all of my students is to stay focused in class. Try not to have a lot of parallel conversations because the more you stay focused in class, the more we will be able to learn this chapter and ace it together, right? And all of you understand one thing. Don't waste these hours that you are going to spend on the live, right? So today if you have decided that I'm coming to Aishwarya Maam's class and I am going to be learning about control and coordination, then make sure that you give me these 2-3 hours, right? Don't waste your time talking. Don't waste your time trying to, maybe get digress somewhere else. So this is very, very important. And Jayashree, if it's the fact that you learn from our channel and you've scored 90 plus in your exams, that goes to show that we take your preparation very important. Aniket, Ronak, sab theek thak hai. Ab class में please focus कीजिए, right? So everyone, are we good to go? Our class is going to be for 3 hours. And for those of you, like I said, who are new to our class, it's an ongoing Crash Course 2.0, where as you know, we have completed all of these chapters already. And today on Jan 17th, we are doing control and coordination, right? And as you know, tomorrow, Kriti Ma'am has a class with all of you for acid, bases and salts. So you should not be missing that class also because this chapter is very, very important. So as you know, this particular series that is there is ongoing till Feb 17th. So another 1 month, we are going to be doing end-to-end preparation for all of you, right? Right from going through your chapters, completing your syllabus, going through your syllabus revision, making sure that we go ahead and do a lot of practice questions and do a lot of mock tests as well. So we are doing the mock tests so that you will have end-to-end practice, right? So everybody, are we good to go? Do you all have your notebooks, pens, right? What do we need for this class? We need our pens, we need our notebooks, right? And of course, please make sure that you have your textbooks open with you so that you can make a note of all the important pointers. And we are going to get started. But before I get started, a quick Josh level check, everybody, if we are good to go. Are we good to go? Are we all ready for today's class? Have we all hit that like button? Because as you know, when you show us your love, we want to hit at least 100 likes today, right? So everyone quickly hit that like button as well. Very good. 100 on 100. Josh is good. Amazing. That is all that I need. And once you've hit the like button, you tell me, Mama, hit the like button. We have done it. We are good to go. Yes, very good. Textbook and highlighter is there with you. And I can see all of you are ready. So let's get started with today's class, right? So what can you expect in our class today? We're going to be starting with the chapter summary, right? So I'll be giving you a quick chapter summary. Whatever doubts, whatever concepts you are not feeling confident about. I am going to take my time and I'm going to explain this part to you, right? So here, as you can see, this we will be doing for at least 1.5 hours, okay? 1.5 hours we are going to be doing this. And once we are done with the chapter summary, I will be giving you some study hacks that will help you understand this chapter well. And then we will move on to subjective questions and then objective questions. So everybody, this is what we're going to do. Don't pester me, ma'am, when is Menti coming? You know when Menti will come, right? So let's get started with the chapter Control and Coordination. Now, before I tell you, right, about control and coordination, here is a quick mind map, right? So when we talk about the word control, it means the ability to, the power or the ability to regulate something. And what do we mean by coordination? Can you only tell me, ma'am, what do we mean by the word coordination? Yes, by this very word coordination, what is it that we understand? In the live chat, you can tell me now, right? Yes, very good, Jisman, very good, very proud of you, right? Okay, process of working, all right. Process of the working body. Okay, that is a very good answer, but we're talking about something that will coordinate, right? So what do we mean by when it coordinates? Coordination is nothing but when they work together, right? So here it is all about different things working together. Now, in our case, like we've learned in the previous chapter, there are so many processes that are happening internally, and along with that, we are also able to see a lot of things that are happening in the surroundings. So right now, if you are able to type on the, with your keyboard or with your mobile phone, your fingers need to coordinate with your brain as to what you need to type. And then you need to make sure that if you are in a dance or something, then you know that you have to coordinate with the others as well, right? So coordination is not just happening internally with different organs, but it's also happening externally as well, right? Which is what we mean by the term coordination. Now we see that coordination is not something, or controlling various processes, coordination of various processes is not something that you will see only in certain things, right? We see it across all living organisms. Just that in our chapter today, we will be learning about humans and plants. Now, when we talk about humans, we see that there is nervous coordination and there is chemical coordination or hormonal coordination. And then, of course, in nervous coordination, we learn about central nervous system, we learn about the peripheral nervous system, and in hormonal coordination, we learned about hormones and endocrine glands. While in the case of plants, we also know that hormonal system works in them as well, but we also observe some movements, right? So Abhimanyu, can we make me a little more smaller on screen, because it does look like I will cover the content. So please make me smaller on the screen, okay? All right. So movement in plants, as we know, we see that there is nastic movement as well as tropic movement. So this is a broad mind map of the different topics that we have covered in this chapter. If all of you want to take a screenshot of this particular thing, you can go ahead and take a screenshot, right? Quickly, everybody, this is a simple mind map that we are going to discuss, and then we will go on to the important topics that are there in this particular chapter. Yes, Avisha, we are just getting started, so don't worry, right? Don't worry, we are just getting started. Good evening to everybody who has just joined the class. I see that a good number of you have just joined, and I do understand that, maybe you missed out on a little bit in the beginning, but we're just getting started, so nothing to worry about, okay? All right. So now we have learned about what is coordination. And I told you that in human beings, we have something known as nervous coordination, and we have something which is known as, we have also learned about something which is known as chemical coordination. Do we need to learn about autonomous nervous system? No, you need not, right? If it is not there in NCERT, you do not need to learn. What is chapter name? Chapter name is control and coordination, right? So now, the next thing that I'm going to tell you are certain important terminologies, okay? So now we're going to get started with this particular part. We're going to be learning about nervous system. We're going to be looking at nervous coordination, right? Now, before we go ahead, I want to tell you something very simple, right? What do you understand by nervous coordination? Or what do we mean? Or why should we have this nervous coordination? Why are we learning about it? I'm just going to take 1 minute of your time. Can you tell me? Yes? Can you tell me why is nervous coordination necessary? Yes. Ma'am, is NCRTC Atharv, your questions will come from NCRT. So NCRT reading is very, very important. Concept understanding is very, very important. Extra topics beyond NCRT will not come, but from NCRT they can ask you a lot of questions. So NCRT exemplar, they are all very important. Yes, ma'am, it gives command for, okay, nervous coordination gives command. Okay. Ma'am, for reflex action and thinking. All right. Okay. Ma'am, for maybe for thinking, all right, to carry message to stimulus, okay? There is a lot of things happening inside our body and we should coordinate with our outside. Yes, very good, Tanisha, very good. It is necessary for functioning of living organisms. See, they could twist this question and ask you a little bit, right? As to, we are carrying out various processes, right? Or we as living organisms have so many life processes happening. Why is it that we require a nervous system? And if they ask you this question as to why we require it, you can write two very small things, right? Because first and foremost, when we talk about it, we see that because of the nervous system, we are able to see what is happening around me. Now I can see there are lights in front of me. I can see the chats running in front of me. I can see the camera in front of me, right? Or if somebody walks in, I will be able to see that, oh, somebody's walking in, they are talking to me. Everything in my surroundings, my interaction with my surroundings is possible because of my nervous system, right? So as you know, we see that it helps me interact, right? And keeps me informed about my surroundings, right? And along with that, it helps us think, right? So we see that thinking. So we see that there is thinking. We see that reasoning out, right? So we see that reasoning out, all of this is possible because of our nervous system. And we see that a lot of processes on the inside also need to be coordinated, which happens because of the nervous system. Exactly. It controls various activities within our body as well as on the outside, right? So that is what that is why we require nervous system, or why we require nervous coordination. So now let's learn more about nervous coordination. But before I go ahead, right, I will be writing down some important terminologies you must know. Okay. So some important terminologies. So important terminologies that we require or that we should know about, right? So first and foremost, everybody, can you tell me the answer to this? What do we mean by a stimulus? They may not ask you this in the exam per se, but you should know what a stimulus is, right? Or they can ask you to define it. Ma'am, should we make notes while listening? No need, okay? Because I will share this PDF with you on Telegram. So whatever I am writing, unless and until you feel like, ma'am, I should write this down because that's how I remember, I would say that you can have these notes. But if you are somebody who likes writing notes, you can write it along with me also. Yes. See, Meghala, all the tips and tricks I will do after chapter summary, okay? Yes. Changes in the environment, response to certain senses, things which make us to respond. Very good. So, if I were to define this, you can simply define stimulus as an agent, right? So, we can say that stimulus is any agent, or you can see it is a sudden change in the environment, okay? Now this environment that is there could be outside, right? So it could be an external one. Yes, it could be an external environment, or it could be internal, right? But we see that this change that is there, we see that it causes or it brings about, it results in a change within the organism, right? So a sudden change in the environment that results in a change in the organism, or you can say that results in a response, right? So that is what we mean by it. Now what are some examples? Very good. So we see that light is a stimulus, we see that sound is a stimulus, we see that touch, we see that heat. These are all different kind of stimulus that are there. So are we clear with this? Are we clear? You will ask me stimulus ka definition a lot of times. That's why I am writing this down. I am spending my time and writing it because this is very, very important to understand. Gravity is also a stimulus, right? Now the next one that we need to do, I've used a word here which is response. So what do we mean by response? Can you all tell me in the chat? quickly, what do you understand by response? If the video is not clear, please make sure that you go ahead and you change the settings, right? Ma'am, reply, okay? Reply to your comment, Chirayu. If I've missed your comment, you can just send it to me once again. It's a feedback, it's a reaction. Yes, very good. So we see that the change that is brought about due to the stimulus, right? Or the reaction to the stimulus is what we call as response, right? So that is what we mean by it. Now the next one, okay? So we see that there is stimulus and we see that there is response. Now who is it, right? Who is it that is bringing about? How does our body know that there is some change happening within our body and there is a change that is happening, right? Oh, Chirayu is like, ma'am, response is somewhat like reply. Oh, sorry, bacha, very, very sorry, right? I thought you were asking me to reply to you. Very sorry. Yes, who is responsible for bringing about or telling that there is a stimulus? Yes, Tanishq, we are just getting started. Don't worry. Very good. It is receptor, right? So we see that receptors are the ones. Now what are these receptors? We see that receptors are nothing but they are specialized cells which have the ability, right? So they have the ability to detect a stimulus, right? So the stimulus could be external or they could be internal. Now, of course, another one that you need to know when you're talking about receptor, there is another terminology that you must know, which is effector. Okay, you would see this term effector in the textbook. So what do we understand by effector? Yes, your chat is visible, but I would have missed out a certain few things, right? So Anshul, you can send it to me once again. Yes, very good. Specialized tips. So Anjali, receptors are not specialized tips per se, but we see that there are cells which can perceive it, right? So that is what we mean by it. Effectors are very good, Tanisha, very good. They are specialized structures like muscle cells or glands that react. So the response is brought about by the effector, right? Very good, Anshul. Effector does not generate a stimulus, right? So what is effector? They're mainly your muscles or glands, right? So we see that there are muscles or glands which will sort of respond to the stimulus. Now last but not the least, I have a question for all of you. How is it that receptor is able to detect the stimulus and how is it that a response, right, is happening with the help of the effector? So there is some communication which is taking place, right? So there is certain communication that is happening. And this is what we call as nervous communication. Now this nervous communication happens in what form? Can you tell me? What is it? Nervous communication happens in what form? Reflex arc. Or what is it? Neurons. Okay, neurons are enabling this conversation. But what is it? In what way? See, now I'm speaking to you. So neuron, if you tell me, ma'am, it is neuron is like my mouth that is helping me speak, right? But how am I speaking? With my voice, language. Yes, exactly. Electrical impulses. Now everyone will ask me, ma'am, what is an impulse, right? How many of you have this doubt? Ma'am, what is this impulse? I don't know, right? I'm not sure on what is the impulse. So impulses that are there are nothing but they are electrical disturbances, right? So basically it's like electricity or they're electrical disturbances that travel across, okay? And it travels across the cell. So again, quickly to summarize this part, we are going to do it with a simple example, all right? So to summarize this, okay? Now I'm going to give you a very easy way because if you understand this part, the rest of the chapter is super simple, all right? All right. So now, okay, so this right here is maybe, let's say this is a boy named Vishnu, all right? So this is a boy named Vishnu. Now, if you see here, this boy is able to see a tree, right? So he's able to see a tree and he has decided that, okay, I can see the tree now. I think I should take a picture of this tree because this tree looks very beautiful. So in this case, can you tell me what is a stimulus? What is a stimulus here? This is the scenario. Boy Vishnu has seen the tree and he has decided to take a picture. What is the stimulus? What is the external agent that is there? Can you tell me? Exactly. So the tree here is an external agent, or it is an external, something on the outside, and it has made, right? We've seen that it has decided that it has made the boy decide to take a picture. Yes? So here we see that this is a stimulus. Now, how is it that we are able to see? Now, in this case, we are able to see something, right? So we see that this information, the receptors in the eye, right? So the receptors is in the eye because we are able to now see our stimulus. And as a result, information from here goes, and we see that now, we want to have a reaction, right? So now in this case, ma'am, what is the stimulus? Why is it not light? Actually, it is light, right? So the light is enabling us to see it. So tree is the object. To be honest, I will rephrase this. Tree is the object on which the light falls. So light is the stimulus which enables us to see the tree, right? And of course, at the end of it, receptors in the eye has perceived this information, and now we know that there is going to be a response. Now, what is a response? Response is the reaction. So can you tell me what is the reaction to this? What is happening? The reaction is what is visible to you, right? Reaction is what is visible. Can you tell me what is the reaction or the response that is happening in the chat very quickly? Yes, taking photo, exactly. So taking photo here is the response. But who is helping us do this response? There is an effector which is helping us do it, right? So what is the effector here? Can you tell me? Response is I lifted my phone and I have decided to take a picture, right? But what is my response? I mean, what is helping me? What are my effectors, right? What are my effectors? Yes, effectors are muscles or they are glands, right? So in this case, the effector are the muscles of my hand that is helping me lift my phone. So in this case, if you see, whatever you do, you take any reaction like that, right? This way you will be able to understand these terminologies. What is the path of reflex action? Anshul, I'm going to come to that point, don't worry. And I saw Tanish telling me, ma'am, this is Halwa chapter. If you find this chapter to be very easy, I am more than happy. This is a very simple chapter for all of you, but understanding the concept is what you need to focus on, because if they ask you an application-based question from here, it can get a little tricky, okay? So are we clear? Have you all taken a screenshot of this? Joshika, all chapters are important, especially your first 4 chapters. Go through them thoroughly. Okay, all the best, Anshul. All the very best for your exam tomorrow. Okay, all right. Very good, very good. Okay, yes, thank you so much. So now that we've understood, right, that all these so we see that, we're able to do nervous coordination, right? So in this case, we see that the nervous system enables nervous coordination, right? Now, what is the basic unit of the nervous system? It is nothing but a neuron, right? So a neuron is also known as a nerve cell, which acts as the basic unit of the nervous system. Now, if you look at the structure, right, if you have a look at the structure of the neuron, we see that it looks something like this. And this here is very, very important. Now, the neuron, we see that has this particular part. So, we see that the cell body of the neuron is what we call as the cyton. So, this is also known as cyton or cell body. Now, from here, we see that there are many cytoplasmic projections here, which we call as dendrites. And we see that there's one long cytoplasmic projection which we call as axon. And we see that this axon here is covered, right? It is protected or it is insulated by a myelin sheath. And we see that between the myelin sheath, right, we see that there are certain points or certain gaps called as the node of Ranvier. And we see that it ends in the axon terminal. So these are all the different parts of a neuron. Now we see that the nervous system in its entirety is made up of neurons. That means that communication happens through neurons that are there, right? So in this case, we see that if we'll have a look at a certain neuron, right? We see that there are many such neurons in our body that help us communicate with or help in the transfer of nerve impulses or electrical impulses, right? So this is what we understand by it. Now, one thing that you need to understand is that all neurons are arranged end to end, okay? Learn about this very, very importantly. They are arranged end to end. That means if one neuron is arranged this way, the other neuron would be arranged something like this, okay? And they are arranged in this manner, one after the other, okay? One after the other, they are arranged. That would be a better way of saying it. They are arranged one after the other. And we see that information, right? So normally what happens is, if the receptors are there, we see that the information from the receptors come to the dendrites, right? And we see that through the dendrites, the information is passed and it reaches all the way till the axon terminals. Yes? So it will reach all the way till the axon terminals. Now from here, we see that the neurons are not connected to each other, but they are arranged close, or they are kept close to each other. So there is a fine gap that exists. And from here again, we see that the nerve impulse is passed. Now this fine gap between axon terminal of one neuron and the dendritic end, right? Dendritic end of second neuron. Yes, what do we call it? Second neuron is called as what? Very good. This is called as synapse, right? So this whole flowchart that I've just shown you. So this is dendrite to cyton to axon, right? And then of course it reaches axon terminal. And then again it moves on to dendrite 2, right? That means dendrite of second neuron. This is what we understand as the pathway of nerve impulse. How is it that that electrical information, right, that nervous communication we spoke about, how is it happening within our body? It is happening through the it is happening in this pathway. Ma'am, is this diagram on an examination point of view? They will ask you mainly for structure of neuron, if at all they ask you. Not this one. This I drew for your understanding, right? So ma'am, why is myelin sheath there? Myelin sheath is mainly acting as an insulating sheath. Because again, if I told you, right, this is going in the form of electrical disturbances. And first and foremost, it should not get mixed with many other neurons, right? Which is why we have this particular one. So this was all about synapse that was there. And we know that once the information goes from neuron 1 to neuron 2, it's not that it is always in the form of electricity, right, or electrical disturbances. But at the neuron, we see that there is a chemical change, right? So we see that there's also in the form of chemical messengers, which then get converted to electrical. So this is what we understand as a signal transduction, and we know that these chemicals that help in transmitting information is what we call as neurotransmitters. And of course, in our body, we know that there are many neurons, and we see that many neurons come together in forming nerves. And to be more precise, what is a nerve? A nerve is nothing but a bundle of axons, right? So they are bundle of axons, yes? And we see that when a group of axons are bundled together, they form a nerve, right? Or they form a nerve, and this is enclosed in a tubular sheath, yes? So are we clear with this? Are we clear? Now one more thing that I want to explain before I go ahead is this point of synapse that I explained to you was between two neurons. But what will happen if the last neuron is there and it has to pass the message to maybe the muscle cells or the muscle bundle that is there? Then at this point we see that there is no neuron, but rather there is a muscle, or here it is the effector. So this particular gap that exists, right? So the gap that exists between a neuron and a muscle cell is what we call as a neuromuscular junction, right? So this is what we call as a neuromuscular junction. So are we all clear with this? Are we all clear? Any doubts so far in what I have explained, right? So far, whatever we have explained. Ma'am, difference between nerve and neuron. Neuron is one single cell, right? Many such neurons come together and they get bundled up, forming the nerve. Alright, are we clear? Ma'am, two neurotransmitters, you can have acetylcholine as one of the examples. That's what's coming to my mind, acetylcholine. Ma'am, why does transfer of message does not take place in reverse order in a neuron? Because again, if you look at it, what is the reverse order? Axon terminal, axon, then cyton and dendrite, right? Now, if you notice, at all times, dendrites are receiving, right? So dendrites are at the receiving end, and the neurotransmitters that are there are always present in the axon terminals, right? So from axon terminals, all the neurotransmitters are there, and dendrites have all the receptors, they have all the things that they require to receive the neurotransmitter, but they don't have anything where they can produce a neurotransmitter, which is why in this case it goes in the opposite direction. Ma'am, what is ganglia region? See, ganglia that is there are basically, so when I told you about nerve, right? I told you that all the axons will get bundled up together, right? And we see that this together forms your nerve, okay? So yellow color ones are the axon. Now imagine on this side all your cytons are there, or cell body is there. All of it is there on this side. All these things, all the cell bodies, the nerve cell bodies, they form the ganglion, right? So nerve cell bodies, they form the ganglion, or plural is ganglia, right? Are we clear? Are we all clear with what we have just covered? Very important question, sure, short you will be able to get. Now, those of you who are feeling ki ma'am, nahi hoga mere se ye chapter. How many of you are feeling ki ma'am, nahi hoga? Ye mujhse kabhi bhi nahi hoga. I don't know what's running in this chapter. I do not feel like I am going to be able to do well in this chapter. How many of you all feel this way? Is there anybody who feel this way? Harika is telling me, ma'am, I am not able to do it. But is there anybody else here? Yes, and if at all you don't want to come clean with me, you don't want to tell me this, it's okay. But if you feel this way, then I need you to trust me. Okay, you just believe in me, you just trust me, and you tell me, ma'am, whichever part you don't understand, I will explain to you. I'm going slow at this point because I know that this chapter can be scary. See, this chapter is hit or miss. You understand, you will never forget. But if you don't understand, then it takes a lot of time, right? So don't worry about it. I am here to help you. Just believe in me. We will get going. Now, any part that you wanted me to explain once again, right? Some of you are asking me, ma'am, can you explain the neurotransmitter part? I'll tell you. See, basically, this is a synapse, right? This is a synapse. So here we have axon terminal, and here you have your dendrite, okay? So this is dendrite of neuron 2, this is axon terminal of neuron 1. Yes? Now this particular thing that you see is your synapse, okay? It's a fine gap. Now what happens is that in this there are many structures called as vesicles, inside which you find neurotransmitters, alright? So inside we see that there are many neurotransmitters, okay? Inside, they are all inside. Now what happens is that when the electrical impulse reaches here, these vesicles will be pushed, alright? And we see that these vesicles will be released out. Now what happens is that the electricity is not coming, the electric impulse is not coming, but here we see that all these chemicals are there. Now on the surface what happens of the dendrite, we see that there are all lot of receiving ends, okay? So if you see, you release it, alright, you release the chemicals, then we see that there will be receiving things, okay? There will be something to receive it. And we know that once it comes and it sits on the receptor that's there on the surface, we see that this as a result will generate an electric impulse. So that passing of information, so electric impulse becomes a chemical information, which again becomes that, right? Ma'am, what is the name? It is called acetylcholine, okay? This is not there in NCERT. It is not there in NCERT. You don't need to worry about it at all. Action potential and everything is normally how? Say all these things happen due to change in, it happens due to change in ion potential. There's, sodium, potassium, all of these things involved. You learn about it in 11th grade. Don't worry about it. What would happen if nerve cells are damaged, right? So nerve cells, if you see, we actually have nerve cells are those kind of cells that have lost the ability to divide, right? After a point, they are fixed. But if nerve cells get damaged, then it affects the functioning of our nervous system, right? Which is why when nerve cells start to degenerate, we see that there are some diseases like Alzheimer's, wherein the neurons and all are starting to degenerate, right? So that is something that you need to understand. So with this, of course, I'm going to move on. I'm going to pace it up a little more so that by 7:30, right, 7 to 7:30, we will try to wind this up, okay? Endocrine glands, right, ma'am? What happens when the muscle ends in a muscle or endocrine gland? See, basically, once the axonal end reaches, the information comes to the muscle. And at that point, again, like I said, chemicals are passed. Now, from here, the information goes to the muscles, right? And then the muscles will carry out whatever they need to do, the contraction and the relaxation, right? So that will be carried out. Now, what are myelin fibers? See, whichever neuron has myelin sheath in it, we call it as myelinated nerve fibers, right? So we call this as myelinated nerve fibers. But if they do not have any myelin sheath in it, we call it as non-myelinated. As simple as that, Charanya. Feedback mechanism I will teach you when I am doing a question based on it, right? Neuromuscular junction, I have already explained. It is the gap between the neuron, axonal end of a neuron, and the muscle, right? So that is what we mean by it. So now let's move on to types of neurons, okay? Types of neurons. Now, types of neurons we have sensory neuron, motor neuron, and relay neuron. So what do we mean by sensory neuron? Sensory neurons are those neurons which transmit information, right? So they transmit information from sense organ all the way to the brain, right? So that is what their role is. While here in the case of motor neuron, we see that they transmit information from brain or spinal cord, right? So I'm just going to write SC here, right? So we see that from brain or spinal cord, we see that the information then gets transmitted to muscles. And this information is passed with the help of motor neuron. Then we have relay neuron, which is present in the brain or the spinal cord. And we see that they are the ones that connect these two neurons together. Now, why is this necessary? Why should we learn about sensory, motor, and relay? To learn about the most important topic from which you will definitely get questions, that is the reflex arc, okay? Put a star mark in your textbook. This is very, very important to learn about sensory neuron, motor neuron, and relay neuron. You will get questions from reflex arc. It came in your sample paper, in your pre-boards. I'm sure this has come, right? And of course, as you know, right, we know that it has come in your midterm exams. It's a very short question, right? Especially from this chapter. So now let's understand a few things, right? So now we spoke about something known as reflex arc. But before I get into telling you reflex arc and all those details, we know that nervous system is responsible for controlling various activities in our body, right? Now the activities that are there, right? So the activities that are there, or I would rephrase this to actions. What are the two kinds of actions? Can you tell me? Two types of actions that we carry out. Very quickly in the chat. Khushi, it is pancreas. Okay, the answer to your question is pancreas. Anjali, I'm going to be giving you the pathway, and Nissel's granules are present in the cyton of the nerve cell. Very good, exactly. So here we see that there are two kinds, right? So we have voluntary actions, right? And we have involuntary actions. Now, voluntary actions are those which are in our control, right? For example, me talking to you right now, me writing on the screen, right? You texting and, messaging me on the live chat. These are all voluntary actions. But involuntary actions are things that we are not consciously realizing, like the fact that we are breathing right now, right? So breathing, right? Movement of food down the throat, all of those, once the food goes down through the throat and into the esophagus, the movement in through the alimentary canal, these are all things that are done unconsciously or things we cannot control, like beating of the heart, right? Now, there are times when there are certain actions that we do which are very quick, okay? They are immediate, and of course it's almost involuntary, right? Now, why is it that they are quick and immediate? Most often than not, it is to protect ourselves, right? In order to protect ourselves, we need to be very quick, right? So these quick, immediate involuntary actions that are done by us is called as a reflex action. So in the chat very quickly, can you give me an example of a reflex action? Can you tell me? Yes. What do we mean by it? So quick, immediate, and I can see Varsha has given me a very good keyword that you can add to this. That is spontaneous, right? So this is also spontaneous. Okay. Can you give me a quick example? Hand in front of gas or hand in front of flame, Tanishq? Where will we keep our hands? In front of the flame we'll keep it, right? Yes, burning of finger. Right. Ma'am, is flow of blood involuntary? Yes, it is, because it's pumped by the heart, right? Removing our hand, touching the pin. Vomiting, see, again, it's not a reflex per se. Yes, in some cases it is, right? Exactly. All right. Very good. Dilation of pupil or constriction of pupil at times when we walk in, when we're sitting in a dark room and you walk outside, right? And it's too bright. You'll do this because your eyes take a little bit of time to adjust to the surroundings. So yes, very good. Closing of eyes in contact to bright light. Even sometimes when dust particles fall into your eye, what do? You bat your eyelids very fast, right? So that is also what we understand as reflex action. So these are all examples of reflex action. Now, one thing is, for the reflex action to be quick and immediate and spontaneous, we see that this particular thing, right? We see that the path should be very fast. Okay. Now you imagine you have an emergency, right? So let's assume that there is a person who's gotten hurt and he needs to be rushed to the hospital, right? He needs to be rushed to the hospital. Will he go take a bus, change 3 buses and then take the long route? Or at that point, he'll be like, let me call an auto or let me take my car and immediately go. What will he do? Will he do option number 1 or option number 2? He's going to do option number 2, right? He's going to take the shortest path, right? So he will be taking the shortest path. So we see that the shortest path, which is taken by an electric impulse, right? So what is a reflex arc? We see that the reflex arc is, so let me write this down so that you can see clearly. So reflex arc is the shortest route taken by the impulse from receptor to effector, right? So you can even stop at this. Now in this case, let's see what is the shortest path. Now here there is an individual who is touching a hot pan, right? And we see that what has happened is our reaction to is to immediately take it out, right? So what will happen? What is the path taken by it? So we see that the receptor here, so touching of the hot pan, right? So we see that touching of this hot pan that is there, we see that the receptor on our skin will be able to detect it. From here through the sensory neuron, right? So we see that through the sensory neuron, it will go to the central nervous system. All right. Now understand here that I am not saying brain or spinal cord, but I'm saying central nervous system. In this case, the spinal cord. All right. So it will go to the spinal cord. And then from here through the motor neuron, we see that information gets passed on from central nervous system to the effector so that we can immediately withdraw, right? We can immediately withdraw our hand. So understand this one thing, okay? Very, very important. It is not that the brain is not, how many of you think, ma'am, brain is not involved in in reflex action? How many of you feel like, ma'am, brain is not involved in reflex action? Yes or no? Is it involved? Yes. Is it not involved? No. How many of you think this? Brain is not involved in reflex action. Yes. Ma'am, yes, Tanishq, very good. That is correct. That is the correct pathway. Brain is not involved. Yes or no? Okay. Now, for those of you who told me no, you are correct, right? Brain is not involved in reflex action. No, brain is involved in reflex action. The thing is, it's just that it is in few cases. Yes, exactly. So now I'll tell you one thing. Now when this whole reflex action is happening, our spinal cord was the one who was taking the decision here, right? But when the spinal cord takes this decision, it also goes to the brain. As it sends a message to the effector, it will also tell the brain. So imagine I touch something hot and I'm like, oh, my spinal cord took that decision to take my hand away. But spinal cord will tell my brain, you know what, that happens. Which is why next time when you go, you know that this is hot, right? You will have memory of it. So it's important to understand that all actions which are neck below, so neck below, they are controlled by your spinal cord. But reflexes of the eye, reflexes of the mouth, and everything that's with respect to the face is actually controlled by your brain. So all the reflexes that you told me regarding the eye, right? Adaptation to bright light, right? Contraction of pupils, when your eyes blink very fast, all of those things are actually done by the brain, right? So it's not right to say that brain does not take time. See, it is not because brain is taking time, okay? Understand this. Brain, what they want the shortest route, right? Impulses want the shortest route. So from my flame, right, and I have my hand here, it's easy for it to go to the spinal cord than go till the brain. Because here it has to go all the way up here. So the shortest route is to the spinal cord. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't go here. Same thing, if it is with the reflexes of my eye, it is easy for impulse to go till the brain than go all the way to the spinal cord. Are we all clear with this? Are we all clear? Yes? Are you clear? Give me a thumbs up in the chat and we are good to go, right? Reflex arc when bright light is focused. Okay. So here your stimulus that is there is bright light, right? So your stimulus is bright light. Now we see that the receptors in the eye will detect this. Yes. And then through the sensory neuron, it will go to the central nervous system, which in this case is the brain, right? And from here through the motor neuron, we see that the information will go back to the effector, which are the muscles of the eye, right? And there we see that in response to it, the ciliary muscles that hold the eye, they will, contract or they will move in such a way that the lenses or there is movement of lenses, right? Yes, okay. Anmol, it is not time for joke, but we will quickly go ahead, alright? Yes, exactly. This is explained as receptors go through shortest path as brain is not involved. Exactly. Shortest path is the spinal cord for neck below. For my hands, it's easy to go to spinal cord. Doesn't mean that brain is not involved. Which is why I would suggest that when you're writing your answer, say central nervous system. Okay. Same thing, Janita, nose. See, when it's your nose and you have to sneeze, right? Something is irritating your inner lining of the nose. Message goes to central nervous system, comes back, and then you sneeze, right? You expel it out forcefully, okay? Are we clear with this? Are we clear? Ma'am, relay neurons are not present in brain. See, that's not the case. What are relay neurons? Relay neurons are also called as interneurons or associative neurons, right? So there are ways. Mainly we find it in the spinal cord, but we see that there are various ways in which the brain can communicate as well. Ma'am, is spinal cord having some ability? Can it work in the absence of a brain? That's a very interesting question because the way spinal cord and the brain communicate are very different from each other. Brain at the end of the day is the ultimate control center. Spinal cord acts as a relay thing. So in the absence of a brain, I don't think we will be able to survive. But yes, there are times when it will be there, right? Okay. Ma'am, but here spinal cord doesn't come. Janita, see again, like I said, don't specify, just write central nervous system. It is the easiest, right? Ma'am, most actions are controlled by brain or spinal cord. Most reflexes are controlled by spinal cord. Okay, most reflexes, right? Which is what we mean by it. Are we clear? Ma'am, will the nerves present in our face directly go to brain or spinal cord? See, I'll again tell you which maybe when I cover peripheral nervous system, you will understand. Okay, so peripheral nervous system, when I explain, I will answer your doubt, Jancy. Okay? Yes, are we clear? Responsible for temperature, everything I am going to explain in just a minute, right? But up until then, everyone, the chat has gotten stuck on my screen. So let me quickly go. Samriddhi, I am not ignoring you. So can you tell me what are you meaning by it? What question did you ask? Ma'am, reflex arc and reflex action. I have already explained this, okay? What is reflex arc? Reflex arc is the pathway. What is reflex action? It is the action, what you carry out. So moving of hand, right? The quick spontaneous action is what we call as reflex action. Yes? Are we clear? Afferent and efferent. See, afferent means towards, right? So afferent means towards. So afferent is nothing but your sensory neuron. Okay, another name for it. While in this case, if you look at efferent, we see that efferent is also called as your motor neuron. So simple as that. Ma'am, association neuron, we've already discussed association neuron. Reflex definition is there on screen. Alright, reflex I have already mentioned. Man, function of brain and reflex action. See, like I said, reflex action that is there. What is the function of the brain? So the brain is something that is aware. So when the spinal cord is taking a decision, the brain is made aware of the reflex action, right? So that is something you need to understand. So when you're writing pathway of reflex arc, don't only write spinal cord. Always say, what do you say? Always mention about the central nervous system. Anshul, Bacha, I've already explained neuromuscular junction. If you could quickly rewind to that part, you will be able to understand. Yes. Ma'am, another name of motor neuron, efferent neuron. Okay? So shall we move ahead, everybody? Shall we move ahead? Yes? We're going to move on to learning more about the central nervous system, right? So this is also a very important part. Yes? So this is very, very important to learn. If you want me to tell you difference between CNS and PNS, I will tell you now after I finish this portion. Okay? So we're going on to learning more about the central nervous system. Now what is central nervous system? Central nervous system includes the parts of the nervous system which is present in the center of the body. So in this case, we see that here we have brain and we have spinal cord, right? So we see that these two make up the central nervous system. Now when we talk about the brain, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? Because most often than not, we say that the brain is the control center of our body, right? So we see that the brain is the control center. It regulates all the important activities that are there. Now when you talk about the brain, we know that the brain is present in the head region and it is protected by a bony casing called the cranium, which is also known as the, what do you say, it is called as a bony cage, or we also call it as the brain box. Now we also see that surrounding the brain, we see that it is protected by a membranous structure called as meninges. Right, and we see that between the meninges we find this fluid-like structure called as the cerebrospinal fluid. Alright, so we see that we have something known as the cerebrospinal fluid. Now this cerebrospinal fluid has two things that it has to do, right? So the cerebrospinal fluid makes sure that it absorbs mechanical shocks. Right, so we see that it absorbs mechanical shocks, and we also see that it provides the necessary nutrients that are needed for the brain. Now, of course, when we talk about the structure of the brain, it has three parts, okay? We see that it has a forebrain, there is a midbrain, and we see that there is hindbrain. Now, on an examination point of view, you need to understand two things, okay? Very simple and easy. They'll ask you which is the largest part of the forebrain. What is the largest part of the forebrain? It is the cerebrum, right? And cerebrum makes up most of it, along with your hypothalamus and hypothalamus. Your midbrain is a tiny portion which is present in the middle. And your hindbrain has three structures. It has cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. Now here when we talk about the forebrain, right, we see that the forebrain, or the main function of the forebrain, is thinking, right? So the reason why you are able to think, Arey ma'am, will I finish control coordination by today, or will I need some more revision, or should I do this for tomorrow, or should I do that? All these things that you think, or whatever you are able to think, whatever you are able to remember, all of these things happen because of our forebrain, right? And it controls various activities, various voluntary activities that are there, such as touch, smell, speech, and sight. Yes? Now when you talk about the midbrain, we see that the main function of the midbrain is to control reflexes of the eye, right? So simple way, reflexes of the eye and reflex movements, or controls movements in the head and neck region. And it also acts, right? We see that it also acts that are there. I mean, it acts as a relay center. Now, when you talk about medulla oblongata, we see that medulla oblongata has cerebellum. I mean, when we talk about hindbrain has cerebellum, medulla oblongata, and pons, right? Now, in this case, when we talk about it, we see that pons here helps in regulating the breathing and respiratory movement. Cerebellum helps in coordinating muscular activity, right? So, it helps in coordinating muscular activity and also maintains body balance, right? And last but not the least, we see that medulla helps in involuntary functions. So, in your exam point of view, most often than not, a lot of you are asking me, ma'am, I think you are, will the diagram of the brain come? Most often than not, of late, they have not been asking you to draw such complicated diagrams. More application-based questions come, but it will not harm you to have a quick look at it, right? So, this is something that you need to understand. Okay. Now, on the other one that is there that you need to know, right, is the functions of each parts. So, are we clear with brain and its functions? Are we all clear? Okay. Yes, ma'am, cerebrum is the part of forebrain. Cerebellum is part of hindbrain. Yes, very good. Cerebellum helps in maintaining body balance and posture. Very good. Yes. What is the function of corpus callosum? See, cerebrum has two parts, right? Or what we say as two hemispheres, right? So we see that it has two hemispheres. It has a right hemisphere and it has a left hemisphere. And these two parts that are there are connected to each other with the help of corpus callosum, right? Ma'am, is midbrain and hypothalamus the same? No. They are not the same, right? Because when you talk about midbrain, right, what is the function of midbrain? We see that the midbrain is present in the middle part of the brain, which regulates the reflexes of the eye, right? But when you talk about hypothalamus, we see that first and foremost, it is a part of the forebrain. Okay, it is a part of the forebrain. And secondly, what does this regulate? It regulates temperature and controls the pituitary gland, right? So this is what you need to remember. All right. Ma'am, do we need to remember the function of all parts? See, mainly forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, you will get questions from it, so you have to remember. Ma'am, brain portion is like kuch bhi puch lo. Yes. All right, ma'am, nervous system is of three types. We have nervous system is of two types. You have CNS and PNS, and in PNS you have somatic nervous system, and then along with that you have autonomic as well. Ma'am, if spinal cord is broken, what happens? If spinal cord is broken, we see that we will not be able to. Reflex actions of neck below will not happen properly. What is the function of pons? Pons acts as a relay center. What do we mean by a relay center? Information is coming from so many places. At one point, we see that from one point, it will go to different paths, right? So this point is what we mean by a relay center, right? And at the same time, if you see, we also know that pons also regulates in, coordinating movements, which is on either side of the body. So breathing, right? So especially the mechanism of breathing is something that the pons controls. Gyri and sulci are basically the grooves, right? The grooves of the brain that are there, the ups and the downs, all the curves that you observe in the brain, all the grooves that are there, and up and basically all the convolutions is the right word to use. The convolutions is what we call as gyri and sulci. Ma'am, function of all parts, yes, bacha, you will have to do, especially forebrain, cerebrum. Yes, thalamus, hypothalamus, you will need to know cerebellum, medulla, and collectively which makes up hindbrain and midbrain. Okay? Any more doubts, anybody? Any more doubts? Or are we all clear? Ma'am, midbrain ka koi part nahi hai, Indra. It's just a small part, right? It's just a small part of the brain which is in the middle. Midbrain ka, there are no further parts that we need to learn about. Yes. Yes, very good. PNS is peripheral nervous system and CNS is central nervous system. Very, very good. So are we all clear? Are we all clear? Yes? So a quick recap, I will tell you. See, gyri, sulci and all NCERT mate is not there. For those of you who are asking me, I am picking it up, okay? Whatever is there in NCERT is all about what I am teaching, okay? Whatever I am teaching. See, earlier when we did one shots, we were giving you some extra information. But today in a crash course, which is just a few days away from your board exam, I am not going to teach you anything extra. I will only tell you what is necessary. Whatever you see on my slide, whatever I am writing, it is only there for your examination. So you just need to pay attention to me, okay? So quickly to recap, we know that the brain is a part of the central nervous system, and we know that it controls all the important activities that takes place, right? And we know that the brain is protected in the skull, and we see that the part of the skull that protects the brain is what we call as the cranium, right? And we know that apart from the cranium, the brain is also surrounded, right? So we see that the brain is also surrounded by a membranous structure which is known as meninges, right? Now we see that between the meninges we find something known as CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, and this cerebrospinal fluid provides nutrients and also absorbs mechanical shocks. Now the next thing is that when we talk about the different regions of the brain, you have forebrain, you have midbrain, and you have hindbrain, right? So now we see that the forebrain is made up of cerebrum. Now cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, right? And we see that it is the seat of intelligence. So where are we able to think? Where is information stored? It is in the cerebrum. So it is the seat of intelligence, memory, helps us with thinking, right? Also helps in touch, smell, hearing, speech, sight, all of it, right? Now along with this, we also see that this is a site where voluntary actions are controlled. So here when I say, especially when I'm talking about these activities, it is with respect to cerebrum. Now when I talk about thalamus, thalamus is a point which again acts as a relay center, and hypothalamus is responsible for controlling temperature. Now when I move on to midbrain, we see that midbrain controls the reflexes of the eye, and we have hindbrain which again is made up of three parts. You have pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. What does pons do? Pons again acts as a point of relay center and regulates breathing mechanism. You have cerebellum which again is responsible for controlling, for coordinating, not controlling, coordinating muscular activities and maintains posture and body balance. Then you have medulla oblongata that is necessary for regulating various involuntary actions such as breathing, blood pressure, so on and so forth, right? So are we all clear? Are we all clear with this? Everybody in the live who is there, right? Can you all give me a quick thumbs up on the chat? Are we good to go? Yes? Samriddhi, can I tell you this towards the end, bacha, on how to give you these tips and tricks? I'll finish the whole explanation and then I'll go towards it, okay? Yes. Now I can see that a good number of you are here. I hope all of you have hit that like button. So now see, so far you've understood that when we do these crash courses, we are very serious about how we do it, right? So here, very quickly everyone, to show us your love, please make sure that you go ahead and you like this video. I hope that we have hit 100 likes. Have we hit 100 likes? Have we hit it? Amazing, everybody, amazing. We have 127 and I think we can touch at least 200 today. So fatafat, that's your target for today. As you keep learning, let's have a small goal that we can achieve. We should hit 200 likes before we wind up, right? And it can be 200 and ongoing, so on and so forth. Okay. Ma'am, reflex action by the brain are done in medulla. No. See, like I told you here, right? So here, midbrain is where we see that some of the reflexes or controls movement of head, neck and trunk in response to visual and auditory stimuli. So different parts that are there. Yes? Thank you so much, Raga. Very sweet of you, right? So now we'll move on to the next part. Are we all clear so far? We are good to go. No? Okay. Ma'am, function of midbrain, it is here. Girija, you can take a screenshot. See, everything is there for all of you. Like I said, I only have, right? I have put everything in the slide that is necessary for all of you to learn, all right? Now we will move on to the next part, which is spinal cord. Now, as we know that spinal cord is something that descends all the way, right? So we see that it descends from the medulla oblongata and it goes downwards. And we know that the spinal cord here is protected by the vertebral column. Right, so it is protected by the vertebral column, and we also know that the CSF is there even in the spinal cord. Now, when you talk about the functions of the spinal cord, we see that the main thing is to control, play a key role in reflex action, and of course acts as a point of contact, right? So we see that a lot of information to the brain is also sent through the spinal cord. So that is one of the major functions of spinal cord. Harshita, I am not ignoring you. I would have missed your messages. messages, you can send it to me once again. Vomiting again is something normally we see that is controlled by the CNS, right? What is CSF? CSF that is there is nothing but the cerebrospinal fluid. Yes? Okay. See again, brain ka diagram will not come in the exam. Most likely than not, it will not come. But you can find I would say you can just read through it and you can go, okay? Most often than not, okay, like I said, it's not 100%. CBSE has told me, Aishwarya ma'am, brain ka diagram is not coming, right? So again, this is just our assumption. It's after analyzing 10 years of board paper. It's after doing a lot of analysis, we have come to this, right? Shreya, functions of brain I have already discussed. You can rewind back and watch it once again. So now we are going to move ahead and we are going to learn about the peripheral nervous system. Now, what do we mean by the term peripheral nervous system? Peripheral means it is in the periphery, right? Which means that it is on the outside. So, if this is our brain and this is the spinal cord, peripheral nervous system is everything that composes the periphery on the surroundings, right? So we see that mainly in this case, we see that the peripheral nervous system is mainly made up of nerves, right? So we already know what are nerves. Now we have different kinds of nerves. Now we see that there are nerves as per location, where we find them. Now normally we see that there are nerves which arise from the brain. There are nerves which are, arising from the spinal cord or going towards the spinal cord, right? So in this case, when you talk about it, we see that we have cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Now cranial nerves are 12 paired. I know it looks very small, so I'm going to write it for you. So we see that there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves which arise from the brain, or we see that information goes towards the brain, right? So it carries signals to your brain and helps you touch, taste, smell, and all of that. Now we have spinal nerves where we have 31 pairs which carry information to and away from the spinal cord. So this is very, very important. They will ask you what are cranial nerves, what are spinal nerves. Now we also see that based on function, we have sensory nerves, motor nerves, and we have mixed nerves, right? So we have sensory, motor, and mixed. Sensory nerves are those which carry information to the, it carries information from the sense organs all the way till the brain, right? Or to the spinal cord. So now in this case, basically sensory nerves are made up of your sensory neurons. Now you have motor nerves which are made up of your motor neurons, right? And we see that these that are there help in movement. And mixed nerves that are there perform function of both sensory and motor. Like in the case of tongue, right? We see that there are two kinds of it. So they have both coming in from there. We see that there are two kinds of it. So that is what we mean by it. So visceral are normally with respect to the ones which are sent to the visceral organs, right? So that is what we mean by it. So are we all clear with peripheral nervous system? Examination point of view, learn what is cranial, learn what is spinal, okay? Very, very important part. Are we all clear? Yes, everybody is very unusually quiet in the chat. Is it because this chapter is easy peasy, or you're like, ma'am, I don't know, everything is all over my brain, right? Visceral organs are nothing but your organs which are inside your body, right? Which part of hind brain does... See, hind brain mein information is not stored, right? Main information gets stored in forebrain. Yes, okay. Tongue is an example that I'm able to think of right now, right? Where we see that it performs both sensory as well as motor. Yes? So something to remember. Now with this, if you see, I have finished full nervous system. It is done. We have finished all of these things. Yes, Kushi is very good, always happy, but I need you to stay focused in class, right? So please don't spam in class. Now cranial and motor nerves. Like I said, cranial nerves are those which emerge from the brain, right? So those are, or they go to and fro to the brain. Now similarly, spinal is something wherein we see that they carry information to and away from spinal cord. So that is what we mean by cranial, right? Which part controls voluntary action? It is your cerebrum that controls your voluntary action. All right? Are we clear, everybody? Are we clear? Yes? Good to go. Shall we move on to chemical coordination? We will do chemical coordination very, very quickly, and we will also talk about feedback mechanisms, because I understand that some of you are struggling with feedback mechanisms. So I will teach that part also. All right? Very good. So now moving on to hormonal or chemical coordination. Now when we talk about chemical coordination, Now we know that coordination or different parts of the body are working together with the help of certain chemicals, right? And we see that this chemical coordination is necessary for regulating various things, right? So for regulating growth, for regulating metabolism. Yes, so this is why we require chemical coordination. And unlike nervous coordination, wherein it's very fast and quick, we see that chemical coordination is a little more slow. So that is what we mean by it, right? So now who is responsible for carrying out chemical coordination? So in the case of nerves, right, or in the case of nervous system, we saw that it was the nerves. Yes, so we saw that it was the neurons, and we know that it was happening through electrical impulses, right? So we saw that this was happening through electrical impulses. Yes? But in the case of chemicals or chemical coordination, who is responsible for this? Can you tell me who is responsible for this? Very quickly in the chat, everyone. Who is responsible for chemical coordination? Gracie has asked me a question which is also the answer. Right? Gracie has asked me a question which is also the answer. Exactly. It is hormones. Right? So hormones are responsible for chemical coordination. Now what do we mean by the term hormones? Now hormones are nothing but chemical substances that act as chemical messengers. Okay. So we see that they act as chemical messengers that regulate various activities. Right. So we see that they regulate various activities within the body. So now in this case, if you think about a hormone, right? Think about the hormone like a letter. Alright, now imagine that this is a letter that I have written to maybe Tanishq, right? So I have written a letter to Tanishq and I have sent it and I have put Tanishq's address and everything. Now I will go and I will put it in a post box, right? So this is my post box and I have gone and I have put my letter inside. Now is this the only letter that is going to be there in the post box? Is this the only letter? No, right? We are going to see that there are going to be many letters that are going to be there. There are going to be multiple letters as a matter of fact, right? So many letters. But somehow at the end of the day, when I send this letter in the post box, we see that this letter will reach Tanishq's house and Tanishq is going to get my letter. So how is it that Tanishq was able to receive my letter? Because of two things. I put the address on my letter. And outside Tanishq's house also it will say that, hey, this is where Tanishq lives. So these two things are clear indicators that this is where it has to go. So you can think about a hormone as a letter, right? Which is there, which is passing some information, right? So you see that inside this I would have written something for Tanishq. It has some information. So in this case we see that hormones are like letters that go to different people. But now the thing is, who is producing these hormones? How are hormones produced? That is where the concept of endocrine glands come into the picture. Now we know that glands that are there are nothing but they are cells which have the ability, right? So we see that these are cells that have the ability to secrete certain substances, right? And now broadly we have two types of glands. We have endocrine gland and we have exocrine gland, right? So we have endocrine and exocrine. Now when you talk about endocrine gland, right? So imagine if these are some cells, all right? These are cells of the endocrine gland. Now we see that these cells will produce some chemical substance, okay? So now let's maybe imagine that this chemical substance is, this chemical substance is green in color and they are producing this. Now the thing is, we see that these things will then directly, so we see that there will be blood capillaries and everything around it, right? So we see that these chemical substances will directly be secreted into the bloodstream, okay? So we see that it is directly released into the bloodstream. While on the other hand, in the case of exocrine glands, we see that if these are a group of cells and they produce a certain substance, we see that there will be a duct. Okay, so there will be a tube or there will be a duct that takes it from where it is produced to the target site. So that is a main point of difference between endocrine and exocrine glands. Now examples of exocrine glands, you have salivary glands, right? You have sweat glands, which are all examples of the same, right? But when we talk about endocrine glands, we see that there are different types of endocrine glands that we must remember. So what are all the different endocrine glands in our body? Before I list it down, can you tell me what are all the different endocrine glands that are there in our body? Mixed glands, I will explain to you in just a bit, right? In just a bit, I will explain endocrine glands to mixed glands to you. Yes? Okay. Thank you. That's amazing, Meenakshi. Very proud of you. Very proud of you. Yes, Gracie. Everybody's giving me, ma'am, pituitary gland, pancreas, pineal. Okay then, adrenal glands. Yes. Pituitary. Thyroid gland. Very good. Saurav, Kushi is not a gland. Thalamus is not a gland. Okay. Pineal gland. Yes. Ma'am, it's also known as ductless. Yes, it is also known as ductless. Praveen, hypothalamus is not a gland. Okay. Understand that. Gonads, very good. So we have pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal, pancreas, we have testosterone and estrogen. So we have pituitary gland, we have thyroid, we have adrenal, pancreas, testis and ovary, right? So these are all the important glands. Again, like I said earlier, when I would have probably taken this class for you, I would have given you some extra information on thymus, maybe parathyroid, but this is all you need to know on an NCRT front, right? NCRT examination point of view, this is all that you need to know. So first and foremost, let us have a look at the pituitary gland, right? So pituitary gland that is there is also known as the master gland because we see that this produces various hormones that controls the functioning of other endocrine glands, okay? And we see that the pituitary gland that is there is present at the base of the brain and it's a small pea-shaped gland, all right? Now, apart from producing stimulating hormones that control the functioning of other endocrine glands, we also see that it produces growth hormone, right? Which regulates the functioning of the growth in the body. And if there is not enough growth in the body, we see that there's not enough growth hormone which is produced in the body, we see that it causes dwarfism. So, deficiency or insufficient hormone production results in dwarfism. Now next up we have thyroid gland, right? Now thyroid gland that is there is a butterfly shaped gland which is located in the neck region, right? Now in this case it produces thyroxine and thyroxine is necessary for regulating various chemical reactions that happen inside our body. And a sum total of all the chemical reactions is what we call as the metabolism. Now for production of thyroxine, iodine is extremely necessary, which is why sometimes if there's deficiency of iodine in the body, it can lead to a condition called as goiter that leads into the swelling of the neck region. And we see that next up we have adrenal gland which produces a hormone called as adrenaline. Now adrenal glands are located on top of the kidneys and there are a pair of them and we see that they act as the fight and flight hormone during emergency situations, right? And then we have the pancreas, right? So these are the main functions of the adrenal gland. Now moving on to pancreas, we see that pancreas are present or located behind the stomach which produces insulin and glucagon. Now both these hormones are necessary for regulating the blood sugar levels, right? And we see that insulin decreases the sugar level in the body if there is too much and also helps cells take up, right? We see that it helps the cells take up the glucose. And we see that deficiency of insulin can lead to a condition called as diabetes. Now next up we have testis which produces testosterone that acts as a male sex hormone that is necessary for development of secondary sexual characteristics and development of sex organ in males. And in the case of females we have estrogen produced by the ovary which performs the similar function of development of secondary sexual characters. So this was a quick overview of all the concepts. Now some of you have specific related doubts. Adrenal gland releases adrenaline. Yes. Ma'am, how thyroid disease is caused? Okay. See, like I told you, thyroid that is there is a butterfly shaped gland, right? And we know that what does thyroid gland produce? Thyroid gland that is there produces thyroxine, right? Now I told you that for production of thyroxine, iodine is necessary. So if enough iodine is there, this will keep producing thyroxine. Now what happens if that there is not enough iodine, alright? So maybe due to diet or whatever reason, maybe the iodine is very, very less. Now when iodine is less, it's not that there is no iodine, okay? Iodine that is there. If there's less iodine in the body, what will happen? Then we see that less amount of thyroxine will get produced. But the thing is, our body still requires thyroxine, which is why what it will do, poor thyroid gland will keep working, right? Over and over it will keep working so that it can pump more and more thyroxine. And because the thyroid gland is overworking itself, right, or over-exhausting itself, we see that it will become swollen, right, or I would say it will become enlarged. Yes, so this will become bigger in size. Now I told you thyroid gland that is there is also there in the neck region. So as a result, what will happen? For an individual who does not have enough iodine in the diet, there will be a swelling in the neck region, right? So if this is somebody, we see that there is a swelling. And this is what we call as goiter, okay? So are we clear with the disease? Are we clear with why goiter takes place? Simple goiter, mainly due to less thyroxine. But why less thyroxine? Because deficiency of iodine. Okay? Yes, plant coordination we will get done to you very quickly, right? Very quickly we will get done with it, so don't worry. Now somebody else had two more questions. One on insulin and glucagon, right? How many of you have doubts with insulin and glucagon? How many of you have doubts with insulin and glucagon? And how many of you here are having doubts with estrogen and testosterone? Yes, ma'am, I have doubts with insulin and glucagon. Okay, I'll explain this part also. Pay attention, okay? Now, like I told you, both insulin and glucagon, they are produced, right? We see that insulin and glucagon are produced by pancreas. Now, earlier, if you had all listened, if you've all been part of life processes and you've heard about life, you've read through the chapter of digestive system, we know that pancreas here acts as a digestive gland which produces pancreatic juice. Now here at that part, pancreas functions as an exocrine gland. But we also see that pancreas produces, insulin and glucagon. It is also producing hormones. So it is working both as exocrine and endocrine, right? So this is an example of a mixed gland. Now I told you, yes, it has dual function. Now I told you that both of these are necessary for regulating the blood sugar levels, right? So we see that both of them are necessary for regulating blood sugar levels. But how exactly are they doing it? So now what happens is that imagine that you have eaten, okay, let's assume that we have eaten lot of chapatis, right? So I have eaten lot of chapatis, yes, and it has gone to my digestive system, food is broken down, right? And we know that chapati is a rich source of carbohydrate, which means that lot of glucose is now there, which is produced, right? Now glucose enters into my bloodstream, okay? Now we're talking about the bloodstream. Lots and lots of glucose level. Glucose level is very high. Now when glucose level is high, what is going to happen? This glucose is needed by all my cells, right? Because at the end of the day, glucose is what we utilize for respiration. So now my cells are all here chilling, okay? They are all chilling, my cells are chilling. Now none of my cells know that glucose is there in the blood. Somebody has to tell the cell, hey, you know what, glucose is there, you can take it up. So that is where your insulin comes into the picture. So when blood glucose level increases in the bloodstream, the pancreas will release insulin, right? And we see that insulin here does two functions. Insulin helps in the uptake, right? It helps in the uptake of glucose by the cells, right? It will tell the cells that, hey, you know what, glucose is available, glucose will come and it will enter into the cells. And secondly, what will happen is, apart from that, sometimes there is still, cells have taken up glucose, but there's still a lot of glucose in the blood and it's not very good. Which is why what it will do, it will convert excess of glucose into something which can be stored. So it will convert this into glycogen, right? So we see that this is going to convert it to glycogen. So that is what we mean by it. Now, imagine, okay, I ate this at 1 p.m. Okay, and the lunchtime I had this. Now, what is the time? I can see that the time is 7:30, and between these two times, I have not eaten anything only. No food, and I've done lot of exercise, lot of activities, right? I've done a lot of things. So what will happen? My body still requires energy. Now at this point, I am not eating anything, right? Glucose, I am not eating anything. There is no source of glucose per se. But if you see, we have had a lot of glycogen. All this glycogen we have stored in our body and kept. No, later on if we need any extra food in our storage compartment, we have this. So now this glycogen needs to get converted to glucose so that the cells can take it up, right? Which is why this particular thing, when blood sugar is low, right? So when there's not enough glucose in the blood, or when blood sugar is low, we see that glycogen, right? Or glucagon hormone will convert glycogen into glucose. So are we clear with this? Are we clear, or have we gotten more confused? Are we clear with this, or have we gotten more confused? Because I will again break it down and explain if you are still not clear. Yes, Tanishk, you are right. Simple goiter is caused because of that. Yes, very good. Ma'am, what are the types of glucose? See, glucose, there are no types of glucose per se. Glucose is one kind of molecule, but you have like glucose, fructose, galactose, which are all different kinds of sugars that are there, right? Yes, Mamta saying, ma'am, not clear. What about the others who are there in the class? Lot of you are very quiet today. Ma'am, more confused. Oh, that is not something that should happen. Yes. Now let me tell you, okay. Simple. I'll explain this once again. Once again, I am going to explain this. Now, this is your bloodstream, okay. Now, there is lot of glucose, okay. So, what does this mean? Glucose level is very high, right? Glucose level is very high. Now, what happens when glucose level is very high? We see that it needs to go to the cells, right? It needs to go to the cell. Now, who is responsible for taking glucose, which is there in the blood, to the cell? That is where insulin comes into the picture. So, what is the function of insulin? Insulin helps the cells take up glucose, right? And what does it do? It makes sure that glucose will go into it. But now what happens is that after all the cells of our body, they take up glucose, okay? So, let's assume that so much is there. Now, we still see that there's good amount of, there's a lot of glucose in the blood. And it should not be so much. Ideally, we should see that only this much glucose should be there in the blood. But now considerably we have more, right? It's still more in the blood. So what will it do? Whatever is extra, right, that I'm highlighting in red. Whatever is extra, we see that excess. That is what I mean by it, right? So whatever is excess glucose, it will convert it. So it will take all these three, right, and it will convert it into glycogen, right? So all these three will now be removed after this, and now this has become glycogen, so that now blood sugar level is normal. Are we all clear with function of glucose? Are we clear so far? Are you with me till here? Are we clear now? For those of you who told me, ma'am, I did not understand. Are we clear? Yes? Good to go? Give me a thumbs up so that I will know, right? Otherwise, if you don't tell me, I may not know. Okay, all right. Yes, you are with me here so far. Now, let's move on to the next one, right? Next one, what happens is, at times, what happens is that there is, so ideally there should be this much glucose, okay? But what happened is that there is not enough glucose in the body. No enough glucose, only one is left. And now cell is like, where is my glucose? I need more. I need to do respiration. I need energy. So there is not enough glucose. But luckily what our body has done, our body has stored excess glucose as glycogen. So now we see that glycogen that is there will get converted into glucose so that it will be there in the bloodstream, right? So we see that this is done by glucagon. So are we all clear with this? Are we all clear? Yes. Ma'am, difference between glucagon and glycogen. Glucagon is a hormone, glycogen is how it is stored in excess, right? So now are we clear? I have simplified this. I have simplified this whole process for you in very easy words, right? Now what I have explained to you right now is actually a feedback mechanism. Why was I sitting and explaining this? Because this what we did. Too much glucose, less glucose, right? Because of that, hormone level has to go up and down. That is a feedback mechanism. So are we all clear with feedback mechanism as well? Hand in hand, I have explained more. Ma'am, what will happen if I take too much iodine? Not like anything detrimental will happen, but nonetheless, maybe at times there are conditions where there is too much of thyroxine that may get produced, but most often than not, that's not the reason, right? Our body has ways of getting rid of it, okay? So are we all clear? Are we all clear? That is done by parathyroid hormone, that is mainly also there for regulating. Those are intermediaries that are there, right? Which will increase blood glucose level. Glucagon will increase blood glucose level. Insulin will decrease blood glucose level. Ma'am, glycogen is stored in the form of carbohydrate, right? Then what is glucagon? Glucagon is the hormone produced by pancreas. Glucagon is the hormone produced by the pancreas. Yes. Ma'am, explain feedback mechanism. Ma'am, how to define feedback mechanism? Feedback mechanism is nothing but a process by which we see that the hormone levels are regulated, right? Too much of something or too less of something is always made sure that it is made into a balance, right? Now again, as you see, when you talk about feedback mechanism, we know that if there is too much of insulin, right? If there is too much of insulin, then it needs to be brought down, right? Or if there's too much glucose, we know what needs to be done. If there is too less, we know what needs to be done. Glycogen and insulin. Glycogen, again, like I told you, glycogen is a carbohydrate, okay? Insulin is a hormone. This is a hormone. Very simple. Yes. Once I finish this, I will explain that to you, right? How do they go hand in hand? Because see, at the end of the day, if you think about it, right? When you think about it, we know that the nervous system that is there, right? It helps in coordinating with our immediate surroundings, right? Maybe they may not contribute to growth, but they are going hand in hand because they are carrying out functions that complement each other, that enable survival, right? So that is something that you need to understand. So quickly, one last time, okay, see, you don't need to worry too much about this. Insulin helps in converting excess glucose into glycogen, and glucagon helps in converting glycogen into glucose. You just have simple feedback mechanism. You don't need to learn about positive, negative now. You don't have too much in detail. Just simple understanding what is feedback mechanism is enough, right? You don't need to go too much in details of negative. See, negative feedback mechanism, like I told you, when there is too much of a hormone or too much of something, it needs to be brought down. That is a negative feedback mechanism. Now, normally, like in the case of childbirth and everything, we know that we see that more and more of something, right? That is what we call as positive feedback mechanism. Yes? Is feedback mechanism important? Not much. Not much on an exam point of view, right? Yes. Which is master gland? Pituitary gland is master gland. Okay, that is what we call as master gland. Now everybody, my aim is that by 8 o'clock, I will finish up two things. Teaching this whole summary, making sure that I give you tips and tricks. Then I will give you a 5-minute break and then we will move on to questions. Does pancreas have duct? They do, right? The digestive part of it has ducts that help them, right? So Jayashri, I hope I have answered your question. And may I will give you summary, don't worry about it, okay? So now we are going to move on to the next one, which is on plants, right? So we are going to quickly look at coordination in plants. Now one last question. Amina has, ma'am, where is glycogen stored? Liver may it is stored and some amount of glycogen is stored even in the skeletal muscle cells, right? Menti is there. Ma'am, estrogen is released daily. See, little estrogen is there. Levels of estrogen increase considerably till a point when ovulation happens and then it is there. What is the most important segment of this part? Most important segment in animal hormones is to learn about thyroxine and understand that thyroxine is not just produced in our body but also in other animals. Learn about insulin, right? Because they can ask you what is deficiency of insulin, why insulin shots are given to certain people, right? Because our body does not produce insulin and that is why it is there. So these two things are very, very important to know, right? Okay, now moving on to coordination. Okay, let me come back. Coordination in plants. Now, when you talk about animals, it's very easy because we have organ systems and we have glands and all these things. So it gets very simple and easy to understand about coordination in animals. But when you come to plants, it becomes slightly tricky because plants don't have organs per se like us, right? But rather, if you talk about coordination also, we see that coordination happens with the help of hormones, right? We see that there are certain cells in the plant body that produces hormones, but we will not technically call them as glands, right? We will just say that they are specialized organs. And we see that these hormones produced in plants are also called as phytohormones, okay? And we see that along with this, we also observe there is coordination and we observe response to stimulus, right? Now, their response to stimulus is often observed as movement, and this is observed as tropic and nastic movement. Now, in plant coordination, I will tell you, right? One thing and a few things to remember is auxin, right? What is the role of auxin? Learning about abscisic acid is very important. Basically, learning about gibberellins and cytokinin you need to know. And you need to learn about how auxin contributes to some of the movements that we observe as well, which we will learn in a bit. So these are the few things you need to know when it comes to phytohormones. So what do we mean by auxin, right? So we know that auxin that is there is mainly produced in young plants in the meristematic tissue, right? And mainly we see that they promote cell elongation, right? And we also see that it is a powerful growth stimulant, yes? And we see that they delay aging, okay? So we see that this delays aging process altogether. Now, on the same time, when we talk about gibberellins, we see that this results in stem elongation. Understand the difference, okay? This is cell elongation, which means a cell will become longer like this. This is stem elongation, which also means that the stem is elongating, right? And here in this case, we also see that it breaks seed dormancy. So it breaks seed dormancy and it also promotes, right? It promotes germination. Now we have cytokinin that is there which helps in cell division, right? So we see that this helps in cell division and allows things to grow. And when you talk about abscisic acid, we often call it as a stress hormone. And we know that this promotes aging, it promotes senescence, all of these things happen. Now when we move on, and we again, like I told you, when you talk about auxin, you also need to understand its role in movement, right? So when we talk about movement, we know that movement is, again, we see there are two kinds. There's nastic movement and we have tropic movement, yes? So when we talk about tropic movement, yes, we see that these movements are in response to a stimulus, right? So this is in response to a stimulus. Now when you say that it's in response to a stimulus, right, we see that this can be in two ways. Now the stimulus is promoting growth. That means because of the stimulus, growth is happening. If that is the case, then we see that it is a tropic movement, right? So this is growth dependent. Now, because of the stimulus, we are observing, or we see that it is a growth-dependent movement, wherein we see that due to, or as you know, as a response to the stimulus, growth is happening. So, let's understand this with an example, okay? So, let's assume that the different stimuli that are there include water, touch, light, chemical, and gravity, right? So let's assume that there is a plant which is kept inside, right? So we see that there is a plant which is kept inside a room, yes? So this plant is kept there. Now what you observe is that after a few days, we see that this plant will bend towards the light, right? So we see that bending happens towards the light. Now this bending that you observe is a type of tropic movement. And because it is happening in response to light, we call it as phototropism. Now what exactly is happening in phototropism? Now the thing is, this bending is happening because in a growing plant, auxin is produced. But the thing is, auxin is now, temperature, it is light sensitive, okay? So auxin here is light sensitive. That means if auxin comes in contact with light, it can get damaged, right? So which is why auxin will grow or it will accumulate in the opposite direction. Now when it accumulates in the opposite direction, it is causing the bending. So here this part is very important on a examination point of view, right? What is phototropism? Phototropism is a tropic movement wherein we see that there is growth in response to light, right? Now here what do we observe? The reason why over time we observe bending of a plant in response to the light. The stem grows or it bends, right, when kept at a window. It's because auxin is produced in a growing plant. But auxin, being light sensitive, will grow on the opposite direction or will accumulate in the opposite direction, resulting in this bending. So are we clear? Are we all clear with this? Janita, actually sunflower is not an appropriate example of phototropism and bending. That happens, yeah, you can say, but we also call that as heliotropism as well. It has a different name altogether, right? Yes. All clear? This is very, very important. Okay. Examination point of view, mate, is very important. They will ask you. Are NCERT activities important? They are, because they can ask you MCQ based questions on this, right? Yes, very good, very good. So yes, so now moving on, let's have a look at the other ones, right? So now we see that if it is in response to light, we call it as phototropism. Now we see that if it is growing in the direction, right? If it is growing in the direction, if light is here and if I'm going towards light, then we call this as positive. Now if I'm going in the opposite direction, we say negative, right? So positive, we see that stem grows in response or in the direction of light, so it shows positive phototropism. But root on the other hand is growing in the opposite direction, so negative response, right, or negative phototropism. Now similarly, if it happens in response to water, we call it as hydrotropism. In response to gravity is geotropism. Again, roots here are positively geotrophic while stem is negatively geotrophic. Now again, when it's in response to touch, like how J engineering is telling me about tendril. Tendril bending and everything happens in response to touch, right? So if this is a stem, right, and this is my pea plant, right, and we see that the tendril here comes in touch, what will happen? It will immediately coil, right? So as a result of the stimulus, right, so we see that as a result of stimulus, which is the touch, we observe rapid growth that go and help in the growth of it, right? So that is what we mean by it. Now quickly to recall this, right? Yes. Now if this is my plant, right, and these are the roots that are there. Now here my light is on top and my stem grows in the direction of light. It is growing towards the light, which is what we mean by as positive phototropism. That means it is growing in response to light. But here in the case of my roots, it is going in the opposite direction, right? It is going ulta, niche. That means that this is showing negative. So I hope we are clear. Now moving on to the next one, which is on chemical phototropism, right? So chemical tropism, I mean, is in response to certain chemicals. Like in the case of growth of pollen tube, right? So when you talk about growth of pollen tube, we see that it grows towards, pollen tube growing towards, down the style, reaching the ovary is an example of it. Abscisic acid is a growth inhibitor. Ethylene, see, ethylene helps in ripening of fruit. So it's not technically an inhibitor, but normally when we say growth inhibitor, it's abscisic acid mainly, right? Yes, very good. Roots are in response to, roots ka, they show positive geotropism, right Tanishq, you are correct. And technoquine, you can ask me your doubts, right? You can ask me your doubts. Now, nastic movement is the last part for today and we know that these are independent, right? So, for example, touch me not plant, yes? So, when you talk about touch me not plant, right, we know that if this is the touch me not plant, okay? And I go and I touch it, right? What will happen? If I touch from here, if I touch from here, or if I touch from here, the same thing will happen, right? The same thing is going to happen. It will close shut. Yes, we see that they will close shut. So here, direction of stimulus does not matter, right? But what we observe is that in response, so it is a non-directional step. It is non-directional and we see that it is in response, right? So what happens is that wherever the stimulus comes from, it will happen. Yes? So that is something that you need to understand. So this was all about in the case of nastic movement. Yes? Sweating and salivation is which reflex action? They are called as conditioned, right? So salivation normally happens in response. That is something that's conditioned over time, okay? So with this, everybody, we come to the end of chapter summary, right? We have summarized the chapter. So are we all clear? Are we feeling confident? On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you about control coordination chapter? How confident are you? Ma'am, and I will take I'll take the doubts also. Yes, very good. Ma'am, it is 4, 5 out of 5, 4.5, 7 out of 5. Amazing. This is what I want to hear. Now, see, in the next 1 hour, when we do all the questions also, you will definitely feel confident. Ma'am, how is it? Yes, bacha, you don't need to spam. I see your messages, right? How is this an example? See, now the thing is, when a pollen will land here, right? We see that on the surface there will be some sugary chemicals, okay? Now in response to this is when the chemical grows, alright, or the pollen grows. Now in this case, as a result, there are chemicals which are there all over here. And as a result, it will grow towards it, right? It's happening in response to the stimuli, which is why we call this, right? Which is why in this case, we see that we call this as chemotropism. I hope you are clear. Ma'am, estrogen, testosterone, once again. Estrogen and testosterone, right? Now, estrogen and testosterone, we see that this right here is produced by the ovaries and this is produced by the testes, right? Now, when we talk about estrogen, we see that the estrogen is necessary for the production of, or it is responsible for regulating secondary sexual characters like development of breasts, right? Ovulation, development of breasts, growth of pubic hair, so on and so forth, right? And we also see that it is also necessary for the development of the reproductive organs. Same thing for testosterone. It regulates secondary sexual characters like growth of facial hair, growth of, body hair. All those things are regulated by, not body hair, facial hair and chest hair. That is mainly regulated by testosterone along with the development, right? Along with the development of the reproductive organs. So with this, of course, we come to an end. Now, everybody, quickly, I'm going to give you a short summary. So, we started this with control and coordination, understanding what is control and coordination. And broadly, we know that this can be observed in plants, right? They can be observed in plants and they can be observed in animals. And here in the case of animals, we saw that there was nervous coordination and we have chemical coordination. Now, in nervous coordination, we saw how the neuron is the basic unit of the nervous system and how there are different types of neurons and how many neurons come together and they form a nerve. Now, the nervous system in itself can be divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Now, the central nervous system is made up of brain and spinal cord, and we learnt about the different parts, right, and their functions. Now, in PNS, we learnt about how we have cranial nerves and we have spinal nerves, right, and what are their functions. And along with that, we went ahead and we learnt about, how there are different types based on function. Now, when we talk about chemicals, right, in chemical coordination, we learned about endocrine glands, right, and how they produce hormones. And here we learned about different kinds of endocrine glands. We learned about the pituitary gland, which is also known as the master gland that produces the growth hormone, right, and too much growth hormone can cause gigantism, less growth hormone can cause dwarfism, right. Then we learned about thyroid gland, which produces thyroxine, yes, and we know that this is necessary for regulating metabolic activities. We learned about pancreas, right? What is the function of pancreas? Pancreas produces insulin and glucagon that both regulate blood sugar levels. Auxin does not slow down growth, right? Auxin mainly we see that promotes, yes? And again, it promotes cell elongation. Now again, when we look at it, right, we see that there's also adrenal gland which produces adrenaline, right, and we have the testis producing testosterone, ovary producing estrogen, and we see that the amount of hormones that are produced need to be regulated, which is why we have feedback mechanisms. What are feedback mechanisms? Ways in which we are able to regulate how much of hormone should be maintained in the body. What is the function of hypothalamus? Regulates body temperature and controls the functioning of pituitary gland. Then we went on to plant hormone. We learned about plant hormones, how we have auxin, we have cytokinin, gibberellins, and we have abscisic acid. And then we also learned about different movements where we looked at tropic movement and nastic movement. So with this, everybody, we come to the end of the chapter summary. Now, before I go ahead to tell you some tips and tricks, here's a quick reminder, right? Now, don't worry about screenshots. I think you'll have to go back a little and take a screenshot because what I've erased may not come back. But everybody out there, I'm sure if you've not watched Kriti Mam's class on this, do go watch it. We have something very exciting for all of you coming up from the 21st of January till the 5th of Feb, where we have BYJU'S National Scholastic and Personal Test, right? Now, this test is absolutely free, and this is a test wherein you will be assessed for your math and science knowledge. And it will be happening in the BTC center right next to you, right? And here at the end of this test, you will be getting a 15-page academic personalized report that will be telling you what your strengths are, what chapters are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, right? And it will also help you understand what are your pain points, and most importantly, right, we see that it helps you understand steps for your future. So if you are somebody who feels like, if you feel you're like, ma'am, I don't know whether I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, these are ways in which it will help you out, right? And of course, you have overall analysis, skill set analysis, and subjective analysis, and you do stand a chance to win scholarship, yes? So it will be a pen and paper exam with an OMR sheet kind of format, and you will have proctors as well who will be helping you out, who will be there to monitor your exam, examination, and it will be a very, it will give you a way of how competitive exams work, right? And this of course will definitely help you out, because main thing here is that you stand a chance to win scholarship at the BTC. So are there limited seats? There are no limited seats. You can go ahead, but just that you can attempt only once, right? So register soon, okay? Do not forget to register. There are 3 slots on 3 weekends it's happening, because after Feb 5th it might not be there. So don't forget to register, right? So with this, of course, we have finished the chapter summary, and I'm going to quickly tell you how you can study this chapter in the future, right? How can you study the chapter? Now, first and foremost, you need to have clean and clear notes, right? So make sure that your notes that you're making, so today that is there, or today whatever I told you, how I have structured all the definitions, right? Make sure that definitions, make sure that structure, functions are all written properly. And wherever possible, try to make tables so that it makes recalling, right, and revising all the more easy, right? So this makes it very simple. Now, of course, a lot of you told me, ma'am, should we learn the diagrams? I would say study with diagrams, because most often they're not for the brain. They may not ask you. But if they do ask you the diagram of the brain, remember this, right? Make sure that you have like a C-like thing. Yes, and make sure that you have this loop, and the bottom part will be bulged here, and then you go, right? So it needs to have a basic structure. Then fill it in with the convolutions that are there. Have this part, the back part, which is your cerebellum, and the center part, right? So try to have easy ways in which you have ways in drawing it. But if you know the basic outline of it, it becomes easy, right? And last but not the least, right? Second last is, of course, to practice and practice. Active recall is very, very important. You need to keep having active recall, and wherever possible, try to use mnemonics, right? So, for example, AKH, if you want to remember all the phytohormones, right? How will you remember this? You can use AKH, that is auxin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, gibberellin, and ethylene. This way, all of it makes it easy to understand. So with this, everyone, we have done the 5 hacks as well to study, right? So everybody, before I go ahead to the last part, see, there are just 30 questions questions which we will wind up. So these 15 subjective questions are going to be very easy ones, and then we will move on to 15 Menti quiz. But before I go ahead, right, I'm going to give you a 5-minute break so that you can take a minute, you can rest, drink some water, walk around, and we will resume at 8:05. So resuming at 8:05 p.m. So everybody go take a break. Make sure that you don't forget to hit the like button. Bacha, I just need to drink some water. You also need to drink some water. As much as you say that I don't need the break, it will help you stretch out, and I'm just giving you a 5-minute break, right? So quickly go ahead, drink some water. Make sure that you go and like this video, right? Yes, make sure that you go and you like this video. I hope we've hit at least 150 likes. Have we hit 150 likes? Oh, amazing. We have 170. We have a long way to go ahead to hit 200. So in the meanwhile, take a break, like this video. I'll be back at 8:05. this amazing crash course on control and coordination. Nitin is like, ma'am, late OP. It's not late OP, I just came, no? So everybody, I would like to welcome all of you back. And yes, Menti will come here, right? Menti is the last thing for today, right? And see, what is our aim? We have 1 hour left, right? We started at 6 o'clock. We spent good amount of time learning our chapter summary, 5 hacks to study the chapter easily. Now, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we spend at least half an hour. In 30 minutes, we will solve at least the next 15 questions. And in the next 30 minutes, we will do our Menti quiz, right? Sounds like a plan to all of you? Does this sound like a plan? Are you all able to see me, hear me clearly? Are we good to go? Yes, like I said, this is my plan. Next 1 hour we are going to wind it up. Nitin, don't call me late, OP bacha. I came already, no? Yes, and I'll spend more time on subjective questions. Yes, who is that who told me this? Whoever wants to focus on subjective questions knows the importance of subjective questions. So before I go ahead, can I have a quick Josh level check on how you guys are feeling today, right? How excited are all of you? Yes, are we good to go? Because see, your enthusiasm gives me enthusiasm, right? So you need to give me your Josh level, give me a lot of energy so that I will be, I will have double, triple energy than what I already have. Yes? Nitin, yes, done. I am not late. And I mean, if I'm late also, it's okay. Queen अपना real नाम नहीं बताएगी और राकेश आपको आप क्लास पे फोकस कर लो. Yes? Okay. Yes, how sweet of you, Shrishti. Yes, much. Okay, very good. So what type of questions comes from nervous system? That's a very good question that you have asked me. Now, how many of you have solved your sample paper? Before I go ahead, how many of you have solved your sample paper? This time, science ka sample paper, how many of you have solved it? Yes? How many of you have solved it? Okay, yes, very good. You have solved it, right? Some of you have not solved it. Now, for those of you who have not solved it yet, I would recommend that you go through the questions. Even if you have not solved it per se, go ahead and have a look at the questions. Now, from control and coordination, most often than not, when we've done the PYQ classes as well, what you observe is that based on reflex action, auxin movement, right? How auxin moves. Yes, and on geotropism, they sometimes give you diagram-based one and they'll ask you, right? The geotropism image that is there in the textbook. If you remember, right? Geotropism ka image is there and they've asked you an objective question based on that. Then they can ask you functions of forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, right? So these are things that they will definitely ask you. So CBSE sample paper, more than any other, Oswald or other brands that are there, I would recommend that you go ahead and you check out CBSE first and then you go into others for practice, right? So that is why I am recommending this, okay? Menti kab hoga? Menti last mein hoga in the next half an hour. 8:30 ko Menti hoga, okay? 8:30 or maybe 8:45 because otherwise you'll be like, ma'am, 8:30 ho gaya, aap Menti kar lo. But I want to spend time on subjective questions. Why? Because your this time's paper is subjective. Exam hall mein they will not give you Menti quiz and tell you, bacha, you write, you do Menti quiz, we will find the answer. Okay, for all of you who will come back and stand on our heads telling, ma'am, Menti kar lo. We do Menti because you enjoy playing a live quiz. But in your examination point of view, you need to know how to write your answer. And most of you struggle with writing your answer. So don't rush me when I take time to teach you this, right? But my aim is to finish it in the next half an hour, right? So let's get started. Now moving on to the first question. Question number 1, everybody. I hope you are able to read the question on your screens. Name the gland and the hormone secreted by the gland which are associated with the following problems. So they have given us some problems, right? First they said a girl has grown extremely tall. Second one is a woman has a swollen neck. So here you need to identify hormone and you need to identify the gland. So what would happen if there is a girl has grown extremely tall? Which is this condition? This condition is gigantism, right? And why would gigantism happen? Very good. It will be because of the pituitary gland, right? I mean, it is because of the pituitary gland which will produce the hormone, the growth hormone, right? So this is the reason. Now moving on to the second one. A woman has a swollen neck. She has a swollen neck. Now what has happened? Deficiency of iodine. Very good. She is having deficiency of iodine. As a result, she is having goiter. What is question? Question is, what is hormone and what is the gland? Very good. This is thyroxine. And this right here is the thyroid gland. So in this case, if we see in both cases, pituitary gland that is there produces the growth hormone, and due to over secretion, right? Due to over secretion of growth hormone, it causes gigantism. Or if there is under secretion, or if there's very less of growth hormone produced, it causes dwarfism. Now at the same time, if you look at the second one where a woman has a swollen neck, it is because less secretion of thyroxine due to deficiency of iodine, and we know that this is produced by the thyroid gland. So when you're writing the answer, write it in this manner. So in case number 1, pituitary gland and growth hormone, thyroid and thyroxine hormone. Very simple and easy. Yes, halwa question. Now moving on to question number 2, right? This here is going to be easily a 2-mark question. Okay, 2-mark question. State the 2 types of movements we observed in plants. Give an example of each type. Very, very important. Ayush is like, ma'am, I want a tip. Okay, let me read it on my phone. Tip that I know the answer in the exam, but I'm not able to write my thoughts properly. Bacha, very good. I know a lot of you struggle with this. As you give me the answer, I'm going to quickly tell this question that Ayush had. Ayush is like, ma'am, I know my concepts, but I don't know how to write my answers. Now, when you're writing your answers, first and foremost, structuring your answer is important. What has the question asked you? 2 types of movements. So, answer that first. So, the 2 types of movements are so and so and so. Then answer the second part. So, structure it as per the question. Now, second thing is you need to practice writing your answers, right? So, take the help of your teacher, or, make sure that you ask your teacher if you solve a paper or you write the answers, will he or she correct it for you, so that they are also able to guide you on how to do this, right? You need to practice a lot, and only then will this help you out. So, super duper important, right? So, I hope all of this helps all of you here. Now, coming back to the question, the 2 types of movements that we observe are nastic movement and tropic movement, right? Now you need to write one sentence each. Yes, so in tropic movement you can write down that these are growth related movements. So I'll write the sentence down for you. These are growth dependent movement, right, which is in response to the stimuli, and they are growth related. Example being stem growing towards sunlight, right, touch phototropism, yes, or roots growing away from sunlight, roots growing towards gravity. They are all examples, right? While nastic movements are independent. Yes, in this case we see that it is in response to a stimulus, but it is not in the direction of the stimulus, right? You need to write that down. And it is independent of growth. So yes, chui mui plant, exactly, or Mimosa pudica, closing of that is an example. So this is how you will write the answer. 1 mark for this, 1 mark for this, right? So nastic movements are movements which are independent of growth, that are non-directional, or you can say that they are not in the direction of the stimulus, right, which occur due to changes in the water, right, turgor changes that are there. So touch me not plant. Tropic movements are, are also known as tropism, which are movements with respect to growth. They are in the direction of the stimulus and they are very slow. Example is phototropism. Yes, Rishi Dev, you solved it. Very proud of you, right? Very, very proud. Easy peasy question, no? 2 marks in your pocket very easily. Are we clear with this? Are we clear on how to write it? What are all the key pointers? Are we all clear? Give me a thumbs up. If you have understood it, I will move on. Okay, moving on to question number 3. Define what is a neuron, right? And name the parts of neuron where information is acquired. Impulse must be converted into chemical signal. 3 marks, okay? But 3 marks that is there will be easily in your hands, right? 3 marks you will easily get because 1 mark for definition, 1 mark for one mark each for identifying, right? So how will you define a neuron? How would you all define a neuron? Yes, very good, Dishita. Very good. Neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Very good. Or you can say that it is the basic unit. Now, the second part is asking us where the information is acquired. Which information or where is the information acquired? Number of nerves is known as neuron. No. Number of many neurons together is known as nerve, right? Not the other way around. What is giving it? Exactly, it is the dendritic end, right? The dendritic end receives it. So now we know that neuron that is there, right? So we know that neuron is the basic unit of life, or you will say structural and functional unit, right? Of life. I mean, of the nervous system, not of life, right? But now we know that information is acquired with the help of the dendritic end. And a place where impulse must be converted into chemical signal for onward. What is it? This is tricky. Impulse must be converted into chemical signal for onward. So this is asking, right? This is saying synapse. Synapse may conversion is happening, or synapse may the chemical is going. This is a tricky question. The second part is tricky. Yes, Arya, Mamta, Devansh, Girija, very good. Shinan, all of you have got it now. It is axonal ending. Now some of you are like, ma'am, how? Why? Why is it? Let's revisit, right? Where is information acquired? It is in the dendrite, right? And we know that the electric signal will come here at the axonal end. Now here, once it reaches here is where the neurotransmitters come into the picture. And from here is where the neurotransmitters are released. So technically, in the synapse, will we find it in chemical form or will we find it in electrical form? At the synapse, are we finding it in chemical form or electrical form? In the chat, very quickly, can you tell me? Chemical form or electrical form? It will be in the chemical form, right? So the chemicals are what is passing through the synapse. But once they pass through and they reach dendrites, again, electrical impulse is coming, right? But where is that conversion taking place? It is happening at the axonal end. So the correct answer is axon terminal and not synapse, okay? So when you're writing the answer, first part, neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system, which is responsible for conducting information in the form of electrical impulse from one part of the body to the other. Now the part of the neuron where information is passed on is dendrite. Part of neuron where it is converted to chemical signal is at the axonal end. You write each of this 1 mark. Each 3 marks you will get. Scoring questions. Subparts. Questions with subparts. Go and attempt because marks will be bifurcated. Right? So everybody, next one is a 4-mark question. Yes, this was kind of tricky. But you'll have to read the question. And when you read the question, it becomes very simple. Yes, now this is on phytohormones. Now I need the chart to be running, right? Yes, ma'am, electrical information becomes chemical. It'll happen at the axonal end so that the neurotransmitters will pass across synapse, reach the dendritic end and then generate it, right? Okay, now give it to me with the subparts as 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now this is on plant hormones, right? And we know there's auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid and ethylene, which is responsible for growth of stem. What is A? Growth of stem or elongation of stem. Is it auxin or gibberellin? Exactly, very good. It is gibberellins. Now gibberellin spelling is important. Number of B's, number of L's are important. Second one is promote cell division. What promotes cell division? Auxin or cytokinin? Yes, auxin or cytokinin promotes it. Exactly. If it is cell division, it is cytokinin. Now you have inhibition of growth. What inhibits growth? What is a stress hormone? What inhibits it? What says, no, I will not allow you to grow? What will it be? One is not auxin, bachcha chirayu, it is gibberellin because it is stem elongation, right? Or growth of stem. Exactly, it is ABA or abscisic acid. Last but not the least, elongation of cells, right? We have cell elongation. What is responsible for cell elongation? Exactly, it is auxin, right? So your correct answers are gibberellin. Yes, we don't need gibberellic acid. Gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, and auxin. 1 mark each if you identify the correct one. 4 marks in total. Very simple and easy, right? Now, one part which I missed out was the initial part of the question, which was on what are plant hormones, right? I missed the first part. So, plant hormones are nothing but phytohormones, which are chemical substances that are produced by the plants that are necessary for regulating various growth-related processes within the body, right? Super duper easy. Now, moving on to question number 5. How many of you are scared of this question? This is a 3-mark question. How many of you are like, ma'am, very scared? Yes. Devansh is like, ma'am, not me. If you are not scared, I want you to take an attempt on this, right? So take the attempt, right? Don't be scared. Now, those of you who are very worried about not understanding feedback mechanism, I want you to take one time. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. Go ahead and type what you understand by a feedback mechanism, right? So go ahead and type what you understand by feedback mechanism in your own words, right? And you make the attempt and then we will go ahead. In another 40 minutes, we will wind up Tarun. Don't worry. 40 more minutes and we are going to be done. Yes. So go ahead and type. What are how does a feedback mechanism regulate hormone secretion? That is the question, right? Why is someone telling me reflex action and reflex arc? Yes, balance the hormones. It is a process by which level of hormones are regulated. Is it caused by a reflex action? Yes, it happens to regulate the blood sugar levels in the body, maintains levels. Very good. Yes, so that is what we are looking for, right? So how do you define a feedback mechanism? All of you write this down, okay? So write this down. So feedback mechanisms regulate the amount, and a point that I did not mention earlier, timing of hormone to be secreted, right? So this is what a feedback mechanism regulates, right? I can see a lot of answers coming in. Is a physiological reaction that returns. Yes, very good. I shall add this point which Janita has told me, right? It ensures that a body is maintained into normal functioning. Very good. Hormones concentration is kept within normal limits so that it can work efficiently. Very good. Balancing its levels. Yes, very good, right? So basically it is to maintain equilibrium. Now you can explain this with an example. Now, when blood glucose level increases, right, when blood glucose level is too high, the pancreas will produce insulin, right, so that it can lower the blood glucose level. And how does it lower it? We see that excess of glucose will get converted to glycogen and it will lower it down. But at the same time, if it goes too low, okay, it is very less, then at that point we see that it will increase the blood glucose level by releasing glucagon, where glycogen is then converted to glucose, and thereby what happens? The amount of glucose is regulated, right? So this is what we understand. So amount and when the insulin should be reduced. So once it goes too down, we know that the insulin level should not be there. So insulin level also will come down, right? So this is how you go about the answer. A feedback mechanism will regulate the timing and amount of hormone to be secreted. That is, if a person has more sugar, then we know that this gets detected by pancreas, and as a result, more insulin will be there to convert it. In the reverse situation, we see that the insulin level will be reduced and we see that glucagon level will increase. So here you need to understand this. When blood glucose level becomes too low, it's not that insulin will still be there. Insulin level will come down as well. Insulin level will only go up when the glucose levels are more in the blood. So are we all clear with this? Yes, very good, Raghavan. Very, very good. So are we clear? Are we good to go? Will you put a smiley face now when you see feedback mechanism as an example? Very good. That's all that I need. Now moving on to the next question. Okay, give the functions. State any two functions of cerebellum and name the components of central nervous system. 3-mark question with subparts, right? So first part, give the functions of cerebellum. You need to give me two functions. So easy, 2 marks you will get. I will only give you 2 marks. Maintains posture and body balance. Okay, Raghavan is there. All right. Now next one is components. Okay, thinking. Chitra, I will write this in big bold letters. Now before I go ahead, cerebellum is forebrain or hindbrain? Forebrain or hindbrain? Yes, exactly. It is hindbrain, right? So this right here is part of the hindbrain. Cerebrum that is there is part of the forebrain, which regulates voluntary actions. But in this case, when you talk about cerebellum, we see that the cerebellum that is there is necessary for maintaining posture and body balance and controls all the, it coordinates all the muscular activities, right? So what are the 2 points? You will write coordinate muscular activity. Yes. Second one is body balance and posture. So if you write these 2 points, 2 marks, right? Second one is components of central nervous system. Your central nervous system that is there is made up of 2 things. It includes your brain and spinal cord. You write these 2, and when you're writing functions, see how we have written it. The 2 important functions of cerebellum are as follows. It is responsible for coordination. Let's make this simple. Coordination of muscular activity, right? Simple words. Maintains posture and body balance. So if you write these 3 things, 3 marks you will get, right? So 3 marks here. So now are we clear with this? Have you all taken a screenshot? I hope you are all writing this down with me, or at least if nothing, you join our Telegram channel where you will have access to this particular PDF. The link again is there in the description below. Okay. Now moving on to the next one, which is question number 7. All right. Question number 7, everybody. Take a look. It's a very interesting one. 2 glands A and B occur in pairs and they are present in the endocrine system. The pair of gland A is found only in females while pair of gland B is found only in males. The gland A makes and secretes a hormone C, where B makes and secretes a hormone E. So what do you need to do? Identify A, B, C and E. Now what is given to us? A that is there, right? What is A? They are saying that A is found only in females and they are saying that there are a pair of A. Then we see that this right here produces a hormone which is C. Okay. Now next they are saying there is another one which is found only in males, right? And this produces E. So easy. This is halwa question. This is not, this is a double triple halwa question. So easy this is, and you will get easily, you will get 3 marks for this particular, 3 to 4 marks. 1 mark for identifying you will get. Exactly. Now, one more thing. If you give me only testis, estrogen, ovary, 0, okay? You have to tell me what is A, what is B, what is C, what is E. That is where your marks count. So everybody rewrite your answer in the chat and tell me, how do we write this? A, B, C and E. Ma'am, C is estrogen, E is testosterone. Okay. What is A and B? Everybody who is going to give me answers only as ovary, testis, all of you will get 0 marks. I need answer in format. Exactly. A is ovary, B is testis, C is progesterone and estrogen. Very good, okay. And we have E. All right, very good. So in this case, we know that A that is there is ovary, and we know that E that is there is estrogen, and we know that estrogen that is there is a female sex hormone that is necessary. You don't need to write both progesterone because then they would have said it will secrete. See, if they wanted 2 hormones by the ovary, they'll not just tell that A produces E alone, right? I mean C alone. They will say that A produces C and D maybe, right? But since they're telling only one, we are talking about estrogen, okay? And We know that estrogen is necessary for development of secondary sexual characters. While B here is testes, which produces E, right? This is testosterone, yes? And we know that testosterone is necessary for development of it. Ma'am, testosterone, yeah, exactly. So you identify this 4 marks, super duper easy. Ma'am, progesterone is only during pregnancy. Yes, it is only during pregnancy, which is why when you often talk about a sex hormone produced by ovaries, right, we say estrogen and not progesterone. Why not progesterone? Because see, progesterone is mainly produced in large amounts during pregnancy. Levels of progesterone will increase at one point of time, after which it decreases, right? And why is progesterone necessary? For maintaining the inner lining or the inner thickening of the uterus with blood and mucus. Yes, but estrogen is necessary for much more other things also. It has various other functions, which is why in this case we see that the primary role of a sex hormone is with respect to estrogen, right? Or we say the female sex hormone is estrogen. Now moving on to question number 8, which is star mark question, double star mark. Yes, Muhammad, you can ask me the question. Yes, Raghavan, it does help in menstruation also. Now moving on to question number 8, right? You can ask me your doubt, Muhammad. It's okay. You can ask me your doubt. Now moving on to the next one. What is reflex arc and what are the components of reflex arc, right? Everybody quickly. What is reflex arc? To answer your question, Ayush, it is amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid. Yes. Somebody has asked me something saying, ma'am, is it right? I'm sorry, everyone. I read the question wrong. What is reflex arc? I think I said what is reflex action, but it's actually what is reflex arc. Not reflex action. Sorry, my bad. Yes? What is reflex arc? Sorry. Pathway of reflex action. Now, see, in reflex arc, I told you there is one key word. There is a key word, including its simplest. Okay. I am not seeing the keyword in any of the answers at this point because everybody is telling me, ma'am, it is the pathway followed by the reflex action. They're telling me, ma'am, a pathway that is taken by reflex action is called reflex arc. It is taken by the nerve impulse. Yes, Bunbon and Bernali have got it. When you are telling reflex arc, I will always tell you this. Shortest route. If shortest route is not there, how is reflex arc any different from a normal impulse that is taking place in our body? Why is it that a reflex arc is standing out from any other response action that we do? Because it is the shortest route, right? It is the shortest route that is there. So how do we define a reflex arc? Write it on your sheet, right? Reflex arc can be defined as the shortest route taken by the nerve impulse during a reflex action, right? So you can mention that. Yes, so you need to write this down. Mama, you can ask me a doubt, bacha. You don't need to wait for, you have my permission to ask it to me, right? Now, what are the components? You can write this in the form of a flow chart, right? Exactly, right? How Jayashree has sent it right now. Receptor, sensory neuron, CNS. Very good. Very proud of you. Motor neuron, effector. Right? So that is how you will write the flow chart. Now one more thing is what they say is sometimes they may not ask you to draw a reflex arc, but always learn the diagram and go. You never know. That will definitely help you. Right? So for this particular question, you will have 2 marks only because the question was very direct. One was to define it. Right? So 1 mark for definition, 1 mark for writing flow chart. Okay? So you will get 2 marks in this case, but at times this can come for 3 marks also, where you might get 2 marks just for writing the pathway properly and elaborating it. 2 to 3 marks you will get this particular question. Ma'am, do you want to? No, you don't need to mention its types. You don't need to mention it, right? That is not there. Okay, Devyanshu, pay attention in your board exam. That is what you need to focus more on, right? Don't focus on anything else. Okay, see, parturition and everything. Anyway, Ankita Maam is coming next week with how do organisms reproduce. So it will be there. Ma'am, is flow chart enough to show pathway? Yeah, it is enough. And you can mention also, the following flowchart represents the pathway, right? You can mention that out. All right. Moving on, everybody, to the next one. Question number 9, right? Ma'am, why motor neuron is effector? See, motor neuron is not an effector, okay? Motor neuron will take it to the effector. What is an effector? It is any muscle or it is a gland which will carry out the response, right? Very, very simple and easy. And bright spot, I will tell you about BNSPT ka advantages, but we'll maybe quickly finish out the questions and I'll tell you, okay? But it's very, very helpful for all of you, trust me. Now coming to question number 9, right? We have about another 6 more questions and we are done with the subjective questions. Now here, this particular question, as you can see, is a 3-mark question. But how are we bifurcating it? Hormones में 1 mark definition, hormone produced by adrenal gland 1 mark, state its function 1 mark, right? So that is how we will go about it. So everybody quickly, what are hormones? Chemical substances which are secreted by certain organs which help in growth and development. Very good answer, Danny T. Manoj. What else? I can see some answers coming in. Hormones are responsible for chemical coordination. Bernali, you have to explain more, okay? Vinay has says, ma'am, hormones are chemical substances which have different types and functions. Yes, Vinay, but you should also say, no, what hormones do. Add that to your definition. Janita has told me, ma'am, chemical substances that that regulate various activities and send messages. Okay, all right, ma'am. Okay, Ravan, if you have a doubt, you can ask me, bacha, no problem, right? And Sujal is very new to my class. Sujal, welcome to the class, welcome to our family. I hope you find this class helpful. I'm Aishwarya, mainly a biology teacher. So go ahead, right? Okay. Chemical substances that act as messengers, all right. See, okay, most of you have got it. Okay, I'm not going to go too much. Most of you have got the answer. Now that I've read out some of the answers, I have explained this. Ravan, I have missed your doubt, bacha. You can ask me your doubt once again. I will answer this, right? So what are hormones? Hormones are chemical substances that act as chemical messengers that regulate various chemical activities, or you can say various metabolic activities, right? So you can say that regulate various metabolic activities. All right, now the next part of the question is hormone which is produced by adrenal glands. Which is a hormone produced by adrenal glands? Very good. It is nothing but adrenaline, right? And what does it do? Adrenaline, that is there, acts as a fight or flight hormone, right? Wherein it helps us deal with emergency situations, right? So that is the function. It helps us deal with emergency situations. That is its function. Okay, I can see a lot of you are very new to my class, who are very, very new. Welcome to the class. Very, very happy to deal with you. Ma'am, it helps in coping with emotions also. Not really, not exactly, because when you talk about emotions, right, you see that you have parts of your brain that deal with emotions. But when you talk about your adrenaline, right, adrenaline is something that you feel when, let me give you an example. You're writing pre-board exam. Examiner has come with paper. She's ready. She's about to distribute the paper. How will you feel? Arey, do I know the questions? Do I know the answer? And your heart will be racing, right? And a lot of it will be there. So what you feel at that moment just before you get your examination paper, there'll be a part of you which says, Arey, I just want to go home right now. I just want to go, right? So that is something that will be there. Ma'am, effect of adrenaline are given. All right. Yes, exactly. They want to, ma'am, give the paper fast. That is what we feel by it. What is the effect of adrenaline? Normally when adrenaline is released, we see that the blood, right? So we see that the heart rate, right? So we see that heart rate increases. It becomes much more. So that we see that to deal with this, we see that, we start breathing heavily, or the breathing rate also increases, so that there is more amount of oxygen. We see that the amount of glucose starts to become more, so that we have more energy, so that we can deal with that kind of situation, right? Ma'am, it is a non-nutrient substance. Yeah, it is it's not non-nutrient, but it's a kind of protein, but it's not a nutrient. We don't utilize those proteins per se, right? Does it control heart rate? It does not control heart rate, it increases heart rate, right? So that is something that you need to know. Rise in blood sugar level, exactly. Very good, Bharka, very good. Yes, ma'am, diabetes, mellitus and insipidus. Soma, that is not there in... it is not per se. See, diabetes, mellitus and insipidus are actually surprisingly, that is there is because of two different hormones that are there, right? So when you talk about diabetes, mellitus that is there, it is normally due to the normal one. I mean, it's due to deficiency of insulin, or if there's too much insulin. Insipidus is normally because of another hormone altogether, right? So that is different. Ma'am, meningitis is a condition wherein the meninges of your brain gets inflamed, right? So that is something. Ma'am, can you explain the slide once again? Definitely. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical substances that are there, right? So we see that these are chemical substances that act as chemical messengers that regulate various metabolic activities. Now, the second part of the question is asking us which hormone is produced by adrenal glands. Adrenaline is a hormone which is produced by adrenal glands that acts as a fight or flight response during emergency situations. So either when when a dog is coming to chase us, a dog is barking at us, or when we are on a roller coaster, we see that we have a lot of emotions that we feel, right? So we see that at that point, to tackle with whatever the situation may be, we see that the heart rate increases, the breathing rate increases, right? Amount of glucose in the blood increases. Palpitation, not really. Palpitation could also be sometimes due to a certain heart palpitations could be due to functioning of heart also, so not exactly, right? Adrenal is present in the kidney? No, above the kidney. Where is Ankita Maam? Ankita Maam is at home right now, but she will also be teaching all of you. Yes. Metabolic activities that are there. Metabolic activities are basically all the chemical reactions that are there. Yes. Now I got another question which I wanted to answer, but I did not see it right now. Just give me one moment. So very good question. Function of thyroxine. What is TSH, right? TSH is nothing but thyroid stimulating hormone, right? So this is thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, very good. So this is how you will write your answer. 3 marks that you will get for elaborating on this. You can take a screenshot right now, or I'll anyway be sharing this with you. We are going to question number 10, right? Question number 10, 5 more questions. We will wind up and then go to Menti. Very simple and easy. Okay, coming back. Now, how does chemical coordination take place in plants? Explain with 3 examples. Yes. Chances of this kind of question coming are very high. 3 marks for this particular question. Yes. How are you going to write this? How are we going to write this particular answer? You have to explain with 3 examples. Bonu Khan, Janu is not here, but I am here to teach you control coordination, so stay focused. Ma'am, this came in my pre-board. Exactly. Chances of this question is very high. That's why I put a star mark. I've put my important mark. Function of hormones, phytohormones. Yes. Okay. Gibberellins. Ma'am, move. Now, I want to know. Chemical coordination they are saying, right? So they have specified it is chemical coordination. So will you write about movements or will you write about hormones? What will you write about? Can you tell me what are you going to write about? Will you write about movement or will you write about hormone? Radha, I'll give you the answer after this particular question. Very good. Very, very good. Very proud of all of you. Exactly. You need to write about hormones here, right? So how does chemical coordination happen? So we know that chemical coordination happens wherein different chemical processes in the plant body happens with the help. So I'll write this down. So I'm going to write the keywords, okay? So chemical coordination that is there happens in response, right? So we normally see that this chemical coordination takes place with the help of phytohormones, and you can define what are phytohormones, right? So you can add in the definition. Now, what are the three examples that you can give? One is, of course, the growth of stem, right? So we know that in the growth of stem, or at times you can talk about how if you keep a plant indoors, we observe bending, and this normally happens due to auxin, right? Then you can talk about how stem elongation takes place because of, gibberellins, and how a seed germinates because of gibberellins. Now, now we also see that falling of leaves, right? So we see that in this case, falling of leaves, especially the old leaves that are there, and all of these things are a result of aging, which is controlled by abscisic acids. We observe ripening of fruits, again because of ethylene. So multiple ways in which you can write down. So you can write about how auxin promotes, cell elongation, and how it promotes growth. Gibberellin, which again breaks seed dormancy and delays senescence. You can talk about cytokinin, which again promotes growth by cell division, production of chlorophyll. Or you can write about abscisic acid. Any three examples you will need, right? So in this case, everybody, you need to talk about what is chemical coordination, write about phytohormones, talk about how all of these, the chemical coordination takes place by phytohormones. In this way, you will get 3 out of 3 marks, okay? What is senescence? Senescence is aging. Sorry. Ma'am, it's a 5 marker, right? See, it depends, okay? It can be it can come as in 5 mark pool also. It can come in 3 mark pool also, right? So if it's 5 marks, you will get 2 marks here and 3 marks for the examples, right? So that is something that is there. No, it can come. Mostly it will be 3 marker only. Normally, if I was a teacher and I am giving this, then I will normally give it for a 3 mark question, right? Ma'am, we shouldn't, no, don't write about tropism, because tropism is not a chemical coordination. That is movement that we observe in plants, right? That's not chemical coordination. So this question, star mark it, it's very, very important. Ma'am, growth of pollen tubes towards yeah, it will come. Why won't it come? That will come, right? Yes. All the best, Kanishka, for your science pre-boards. You will rock it, okay? Now, Radha had a question on pineal and pituitary gland. So let me, before I go ahead to that part, I'll quickly explain. Pineal gland that is there is normally present, right? So we see that pineal gland is present in the brain region that actually regulates our sleep cycle, right? So we see that this regulates our sleep cycle or our biological cycle. Pituitary gland is a master gland which controls the functioning of all other endocrine glands and also produces growth hormone that is necessary for growth, right? So that is what we mean by hormone. Not Dracula. What is Dracula hormone? Exactly. Circadian rhythm is the biological clock, right? Okay. All right. Bonu, if you are unnecessarily going to spam, you will get blocked from this channel. So kindly stop it. Okay? Yes. Now coming back. See, 4 more questions and Menti. Okay, 4 more questions. But I told you, your subjective questions are more important than objective at this point because you need to know how to write your answer. So that's why I'm spending some time. Again, very simple and easy. We have 4 mark question. Okay. Name the part of the brain which controls voluntary action, involuntary action. Okay. Second part is explain the significance of peripheral nervous system. Explain name the components of this nervous system and distinguish between the two. 4 things. Cerebellum is involuntary. Is cerebellum involuntary? Who is telling? Tanishq, think about it. Cerebellum regulates or does it control involuntary action? Which controls involuntary action? Now think about it. Is it cerebellum or medulla? Voluntary is cerebrum. Everybody is sure of that. Ma'am, I know the answer. So first part is, so A ka first part, which controls voluntary action. Everybody is 100% sure that this is cerebrum, right? This controls voluntary action. Now the second part is involuntary action. What controls involuntary actions like blood pressure and so on? Exactly. It is medulla oblongata. And you can specify this. Now moving on to the next one. B says, ma'am, what is the significance of having PNS, right? What is PNS? See, Pons ka don't mention because Pons is controlling one part. Okay, Pons is more of a relay center. Medulla is the answer, right? Megala, 9:30 it will be done. Ma'am, what does Pons do? Relay center. Okay, it is a relay center and it also regulates breathing. But that's the main thing. Not regulates breathing, but rather the breathing mechanism that is there. What is the significance of PNS? Why should we have a peripheral nervous system? What do you think? What is the reason of having peripheral nervous system? Ma'am, we learned peripheral nervous system is there, nerves are there. But did we ever think about why PNS is necessary? Did we think about it? Exchange of messages. Okay, very good, Tanishka. Easy transfer. Very good, exactly. So PNS serves as a channel of communication between the CNS and the different parts that are there, right? Or other parts of the body. So that is very, very important. Not exchange of impulses, but transmission of impulses that are there. From where to where? Exactly, from CNS to different parts. Now name the components, right? Based on origin. So based on origin of the nerves, what are the two kinds? Can you tell me? Yashpreet, I understand and love the fact that you're from Haryana, but you stay focused in class, bacha. Okay, very good, Bhumi. Very good. Yes, I'm seeing the answers. Full form of PNS is the peripheral nervous system, right? Exactly. It is based on origin. If it is based on origin, you will not say somatic and autonomic because somatic and autonomic is based on functionality, right? Autonomic nervous system has nerves that regulate involuntary actions and the control of it, right? Which is why in this case, based on origin, we are talking about cranial nerves and spinal nerves, right? Now you need to distinguish. So cranial nerves are coming from, or they originate from the brain. This is from the spinal cord. You can write the number here. How many pairs are here? In this case, you have 31 pairs, right? Ma'am, are these PYQ? Some of them are PYQ. Some of them are important questions. It's a mix of a lot of things that we have made. But the main thing is our team has spent almost days just picking out these 30 questions, okay? These are not some heavy, they've picked some questions and they've decided that, yeah, you know, we'll just give them some random 15 questions. No, we're giving you a lot of examination relevant questions, right? Okay. So now this is how you write the answer. This is written wrong here. This is cerebrum, right? So you will get 1 mark here. You will get, if you write all these 3, you will get a total of 3 marks, right? Very, very important. Ma'am, if you are feeling ki you have not, unsure, if you are not feeling confident about diagrams, I would suggest that you see and draw the images at least 4-5 times and then try to remember, right? Yes, so that's how you need to do. Now moving on to question number 12. Mention 3 regions, 3 marks. Very, very important. How many of you have got this question? Name the 3 major regions of the brain and write 1 function of each. How many of you have asked this particular question? How many of you have got it? Guys, if you spam for Menti, it is not going to happen. Until I finish subjective questions, I cannot move to Menti. And again, I'm telling you, in your examination, when you are sitting in your exam center, nobody is going to come and tell, guys, Menti code is this and this. You will have to know how to write the answer. So try not to spam and stay focused, right? Yes, very good. This is a very important question. Exactly. So in this case, right, if you think about it, the 3 major regions are forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Now all of you tell me the functions of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain in the chat very quickly. What are the functions of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain? Olfactory lobes that are there are parts, or they're lobes that are, you know, there for regulating smell, right? They're parts of the brain. They're lobes in the brain. Forebrain is for thinking, okay. Thinking. What else? Major thinking part, learning, thinking unit, okay. Major fish, Devansh, I'll give you the answer now. Stores all memories, okay. Yes, very good, Girija and Arungauda Patel. Thinking and controls voluntary actions, right? It regulates voluntary actions that are there. Exactly. Now what else? Controls sensory organs. Controls is a very strong word, but okay, right? Now you have midbrain. Yes, very good. Midbrain, that is there is a point of contact or relays between forebrain and hindbrain, right? It relays information between the two. And apart from this, it also has one more function. What is the function? What does it do? Anonymous, very important question, I'll tell you. One more, exactly, pupil size, or I can say that this regulates the reflexes of the eye, right? Or whatever reflexes that are there, reflexes of our eye is regulated by this. Last one is hindbrain. What is hindbrain? What is the function of hindbrain? Yes, what is hindbrain? Hindbrain is a part which is the back part which includes pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Yes, exactly. Forebrain for voluntary. Okay, all right. Very good. Posture, body control, reflexes above the neck. Very good. Equilibrium. Pons regulates. Yes. So mainly upar se if you think about it, right? We see that hindbrain, we see that the cerebellum that is there is necessary for maintaining body posture, right? And it is necessary for body balance. And your medulla that is there in controls involuntary actions, right? So we see that various involuntary actions are regulated by medulla. Now, somebody anonymous asked me a very important question. I'd like to go back to that. So it's a very, very good question that I'd like to see. Why is it said that cerebellum helps in prerequisite for voluntary actions? Very good. So if you think about it, you have cerebrum, right? You have cerebrum that is there, which is said to control, okay, control voluntary actions. Yes? So now what are some of the voluntary actions that I am doing right now? I am talking and I am simultaneously writing also, right? But these actions that are there, the decision to talk, to control or to write, they are all made by my forebrain. But my hands and fingers need to move together, my mouth moves together. We see that various muscles need to coordinate. So for all of this to happen, your cerebellum must work, right? Your cerebellum that is there will be the one who coordinates it. It doesn't really control it, but it coordinates, that is there. Is body balance a voluntary action? A body balance that is there. See, again, like I said, no, body balance will not fall under a category of an action. Body balance is something where you observe that your body is kept upright. Okay. Now, a conscious decision to fall down, right? If I say, oh, I want to fall down right now like this, that is a voluntary thought that I'm doing when I'm making my body fall that way. But it's not that I'm losing my balance, right? Yes. Ma'am, can we say that actions in the hindbrain takes place when the mind is in a conscious state? See, what you again think about it, right? It's very, very important that you need to understand that your hindbrain controls it, but it's more of coordinating it. It's not controlling per se, right? Exactly. So you can't really say that. Yes. Okay. Cerebellum is in hindbrain. Yes. Gustatory, taste. Olfactory, nose. Okay. So gustatory receptors help you. They are present in your tongue, and olfactory receptors are present in your nose. Right? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm playing with the magical pen. Definitely, Tanishq. Definitely. Now we'll move on to the next question. So this is how you'll write your answer. So in forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, mention the parts also. Right? What all parts make up the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain? You will get 3 marks for this. Now moving on to last 3 questions. Quickly. Name the hormones which are synthesized at shoot tips and how does it help the plant to respond to light? 3 marks. And I'm telling you, star mark this question. Very, very, very important. Very important. I told you this concept will come. They'll twist the question and they will ask you, that's all. They will only twist it and they will ask you. Exactly. So the hormone which is synthesized at the shoot tip is called as auxin, right? Exactly. This has also come in your paper and they will twist this question and ask you. They'll say potato, potato. They will twist it in multiple ways, but the concept is the same. So auxin is produced at the shoot tips. Now we know that how does it help in response to light? Now we know that plants or the shoot of the plant grows in response to the stimulus, or it grows towards the light. Now normally growth happens in response to auxin. But what happens is that auxin is sensitive to light, right? And because it is sensitive to light, auxin gets accumulated towards the shady region of the shoot. And if it is kept or it is found in the darker regions, and as a result we observe bending, right? And answer should be, as I know the team has written it in paragraphs, but if you are asking me as a teacher, I will prefer to write it in points, right? So here when you are writing it, auxin is synthesized at the shoot tips when a growing plant detects light, and it helps the plant grow taller. Now when light is coming from one side, the auxin diffuses or moves to the opposite side or the shady side. And as a result, we see that this concentration of auxin will stimulate the cells to grow longer and away from the light, right? And as a result, it causes bending. Yes? Negative phototropism? No, this is positive, right? Because again, what is happening? This bend is happening. That means it is growing towards it. It is positive. Where is shady region? If my sun is here, this is my shady region which is away from it on this side. This is my shady region, right? This is my shady region. Very good, Amina. Very good. Good answer. Yes, good answer. Mahipal, I completely understand that you are all comfortable understanding in Hindi. It's just that I am not fluent in English. I am not fluent in Hindi, which is why I struggle to teach in Hindi, and I primarily teach in English, but I am also learning Hindi, so as I go. Ma'am, I still didn't understand this. Okay, I will teach this part. You have sun. Okay, sun is there. Now what happens is that we know that the shoot of the plant will always grow in this direction, right? So this is the shoot of the plant and they're like, yo, I will grow in your direction, right? So it will grow here. Now the thing what happens is that when it is kept in a dark room, right? Or when it is kept in a dark room, what will happen? We see that there is bending, okay? Now why does this bend happen? Now the bend happens because, of course, for a plant to grow or for the shoot to grow, auxin needs to be produced so that they grow. But the thing is, normally when we think about growth, we think that cell will grow one on top of the other, and that is how growth is happening. So we always think, no, growth means one on top of the other, it is growing, and that's how it, like how if you were to build a house, you will put one brick like this, one on top of the other, and that's how you build a big wall, right? So that is what we mean by it. Now at the same time, what happens is that auxin grows, auxin that is there, it will start getting accumulated in the opposite side. Okay. Now when auxin gets accumulated in the shady region, we see that the cells will start growing here. Okay. So it's like niche se they're stacking. Alright. So niche se they're stacking, and as a result, because of this, the plant grows in this manner. Right. So that's what they mean by it here. This concentration of auxin makes the cells grow on the longer side of the shoot, which is away from the light. So growth technically is not happening in this manner where one after the other it is growing here. But as a matter of fact, what is happening is, if these are X number of cells, your new cells are actually coming here. And as a result, it is pushing this forward and forward. So are we clear? And exactly, it's not just that growth is there, cell elongation is also happening, right? So that is what we understand by it. Very, very important 3-mark question. Yes? Very good, Barnali. Very good. Very well written. Yes. But how does it compel it, right? How does it compel that is there? How does it compel growth towards light? Because it goes in the opposite direction. Ma'am, what causes elongation of shoot? Elongation of cell is caused by auxin. Elongation of stem is caused by gibberellin. Okay? Very important. Second last question, 4-mark 1. Which hormone is responsible for changes noticed in females at puberty? Dwarfism is a result of deficiency of which hormone? Blood sugar level rises due to deficiency of which hormone? Iodine is necessary for the synthesis of which? 4 marks. Okay, very simple and easy. Yes, first one is which is responsible for changes. Secondary sexual characters, right? What is it? What is A? Very good. Most of you are giving me the answer to this. Very good, everyone. Very good. What is A? Exactly. A is estrogen. That what do you say? That is responsible for the changes observed at puberty. What is the second one? Dwarfism. Dwarfism is because of which one? Very good. It's because of growth hormone, right? So we know that when there is deficiency of growth hormone in the body, it affects growth of an individual, resulting in stunted growth and of course underdeveloped body, right? So that's what we understand as dwarfism. Third one, blood sugar level rises due to deficiency of which hormone? Very good, everybody. Very good. The correct answer is insulin. Now, normally we know that insulin is necessary for decreasing blood sugar level. But if there's not enough insulin, the blood sugar level will increase. And what is this condition known as? It is known as diabetes. Now, moving on to the last one, that is which hormone is necessary, for which hormone is iodine necessary for synthesis? It is nothing but thyroxine, right? And deficiency of thyroxine is what we understand as goiter. So, 4 marks for identifying each of these hormones. Last question before which we do Menti, which is a question some of you asked me. Okay, I will say that this particular question can come for 2 marks. This can come for 3 marks. Nervous and hormonal systems together perform the function of control and coordination in human beings. Justify this particular statement. How many of you have already seen this particular question in your exams? How many of you have already seen that either pre-board pay or midterm pay, wherever control coordination was there, this question was there? Ma'am, no idea, but this question also came in my exam. Exactly. So I told you, right, the quality of questions that we bring here at BYJU'S is like none other. So everybody, please make sure that you go ahead and you subscribe to the channel. Because subscribing to our channel and today's class is an example of how hard we work for you. We don't come up with some random questions, okay, or some easy peasy questions. We come up with high quality questions, right? So we come up with questions that we know that teachers would have asked you in the exam. We come with a lot of experience. All of us teachers come with a lot of experience knowing what questions would be asked. The team comes with a lot of experience, which is why if you have still not subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel right now. This cannot be a better example, right? There cannot be a better example than this. Yes? Ma'am, we can make any particular question 2, 3, 5 mark. Exactly. You can make it in any way, right? Depending on how you answer. Meghala, how to do self-study? Ankita Maam has already taken a class on backlogs. She would have spoken to you about how to help you. We've had a lot of classes on self-study, but I would say that first and foremost, making sure you have a timetable will help you out with it, right? So start from there. So let's understand this particular part. Now, first and foremost, start with this, right? So you have nervous system, right? So we know that the nervous system that is there is essential for what all? It is essential for the regulation, control, and coordination of various actions, right? Now we see that normally these actions will make us more aware of our surroundings, right? So we see that it makes us aware of our surroundings and also makes us more adaptive, right? So we see that it makes it more adaptive to our surroundings and we are able to respond properly. Yes? So we are able to respond to various changes that happen. Yes? So we are able to respond to a lot of changes that happen in the environment. Now, along with this, so what happens is that our environment is constantly changing, right? Whether you go from your house to tuition or you come to YouTube, whatever it may be, you are able, at all times things are changing. But why is it that you are able to adapt to your surrounding? It's because of your nervous system, right? You're able to react quickly to it, you are able to respond to it, you are able to process information faster. But within our body, we see that there are various reactions which are constantly taking place. So those are like your normal day-to-day activities kind of thing, right? So now in this case, when you talk about chemical coordination, all your growth related, mechanical, all your metabolic reactions, all of them take place, right? So now in this particular question, if you see, in humans, right, we know that the nervous system is essential for coordinating various activities, and we see that it makes it possible for us to adapt to the environment and the changes that we see because of this, right? So we are able to coordinate with our environmental changes, various movements, and protect our body as well, right? So three things. One is what? Environmental changes, control movement, and thirdly, protect ourselves if at all there is any danger. While on the other hand, when we talk about chemical coordination, it is more internal, right? And we see that this helps in making sure that various reactions regarding growth, right, regarding metabolism, and all these things which are day to day, kind of like mundane day-to-day activities that need to happen, are taken care of by chemical coordination. So when you think about it, you need your nervous system and your chemical system that together work so that you are able to maintain the equilibrium and balance within, and you are able to, go ahead with your surroundings. So are you able to get an understanding of what all points you need to write? You need to write about how the nervous system is different from how your chemical system, right? So in this case, right, if you understand that these two need to work together so that your internal external balance is maintained, or your internal external chemical coordination is maintained at all points. So are we all clear with how to answer? Are we clear? Yes? Are we all clear? Very good everybody, very good. It's okay Tanishq, no problem. But see, at the end of the day, like I told you, we come up with like the best questions, right? Lobes of brain to an extent, not much, right? Not much. So before I go ahead, I hope all of you have registered for BYJU'S Quizmasters. As you know, it's happening on 28th with Ankita Maam, wherein we are looking for the brightest young minds for this, and we have some very, very exciting things which are being planned. So if you still have not registered, please register now, right? Again, registrations are still open. Please make sure that you go ahead and you register to it. So going back to the previous one, we have justified it, right? Question said that how are they working together? They are working together because we are able to balance what's happening outside to what is happening inside. And with this, everyone, we have finished 3 things. Last part of 15 MCQ quizzes for Menti Quiz. Now, before Menti Quiz, how many likes do we have on our video? Let me have a quick look. Chalo, I can see that there are 232 likes, but can we make this 250? Can we make this 250 before I go to Menti? Can we hit 250 likes before I go to Menti? Yes, Tech Talk is like, ma'am, no. Why are you giving us more and more work? We can hit 250 very easily. I know it. I know you know we can do this, right? Oh, that is amazing, Anshul. If you've been together with us for so long, I'm sure that you will do a wonderful job, right? Just trust us. I know it's a big step to trust somebody, but if you trust us, I'm telling you, we'll hold your hand till you finish your board exams. Ma'am, are diagrams important? Diagrams are important because especially reflex arc diagram, your geotropism, phototropism diagrams are important because they will ask you maybe diagram-based questions, right? Palani, I have already explained it. You can go ahead and go back and check it out. Okay, ma'am, please make it 205. Ma'am, 247. Okay, 247 is good. So here's the Menti code, everyone, right? Yes, ma'am, I trusted BYJU'S, but I left it in between. It's okay, bacha, if you left in between, you come back to us. We are here for you and we are here to help you out. Menti code 1312888210. 13128810, right? So everybody, Abhimanyu, I'm going to be switching the screen. So can we please freeze the screen? Yes? Can I please switch the screen? I will go ahead. Okay. So everybody, I can see 22 of you have joined the quiz. Quickly go ahead, join the quiz. Jaldi, jaldi. All right. Abhimanyu, we can change the screen. Yes. Okay. All right, everyone, quiz is there. Ma'am, 30 minutes हो गया. Menti website खोल के रखा हूँ. Yeah, very sorry about that. See, I told you, no, I want to spend time on those subjective questions. And now you saw, right, why I had to spend those time. It's very important. Yes, okay, very good. Ma'am, do I need to attempt NCRT questions too, or are these enough? NCRT questions, please do. See, your way of preparing for any chapter should be NCRT textbook, one shot. If you are having doubts, go to exercise questions, exemplar, then this way, right? Yeah, yes. Okay, ma'am, I'm unable to open Menti. It's okay. You can refresh, Rahul, close everything fully and go ahead. अगर मुझे उदास लग... Oh, Tanishq, please don't make me read in Hindi. I struggle a lot, right? Okay. So everyone, quickly, question number 1 of 15. 15 questions are going to be there. I can see 100 of you here are in the live, but need everybody to be here as well. Ma'am, it's not coming. Menti is not working. What happened? Okay. Everyone who is struggling with Menti, close the screen fully, close the tab. If you're doing it on your phone, close all tabs and open, right? I am pink truck. I can't. Oh, I'm very bad at this game. Ankita Maam is very good at finding all these emojis. I'm very bad. Yes. All right. I'm just going to wait for 1 more minute and I'm going to get started. I can see 81 of you are here. Crocodile. Huh, I found the crocodile. Yes. Hindi, please. I don't know Hindi. That is the thing. If I knew Hindi, I would be talking in Hindi. No, but I'm very bad at it. Pink flower. Yes, I found a pink flower. Ma'am, 250 like ho gaya. Amazing. I am the goat on top. Greatest of them all. No. Greatest of all time. Sorry. Greatest of all time, right? That's a goat. Huh. Yes, 89 of you are here. Shall I get started? Give me a thumbs up. I'm going to get started. Shall we go? Love emoji. I'm assuming it's this. Watermelon dekho. Haan, watermelon is here. Hat. I can see, oh, hat is here. I found the hat. Ma'am, I am crocodile. Where is crocodile? Oh, it's here. Found it. Crown. Oh, crown is on top. Very easy. Yes. Okay. Done now. All emojis are done. Ghost. Okay. Shall we start? Shall we get started, everybody? Hindi क्यों नहीं आती? और क्यों नहीं आता? Because I know Hindi. It's not like I don't know. Otherwise, I would not be able to read, right? I would not be able to read what you are writing. But the thing is, I'm not very fluent with my speaking Hindi. I can read Hindi, I can write Hindi, but I'm not very fluent with speaking. Okay, that's just one thing. Okay, 94 kids, I'm getting started. Okay, yes. First question on your screen. All right. Question number 1, everybody. In a synapse, the chemical signal is transmitted from where to where? You have 4 options from which you need to identify the correct answer. Read this question. Please don't rush in answering. Read the question, read the options. I am from Bangalore. Gautam Kumar, I do not know English. It's okay. You are typing well in English only. Very proud of you. Okay. Very good, everybody. Very good. I can see most of you have got the answer, but I can see some of you here got confused. In synapse, chemical signal goes from where to where? It goes from axonal end of one neuron to the dendritic end. We are talking at the synapse. Where is the synapse? It's here. Axonal, dendritic. Not dendrite to axon. This is wrong, right? Dendrite to axon is how the impulse gets transmitted. And these two, of course, axon to cell body. No, these are all wrong, right? Which is why in this case, we see that the correct answer here is option D. Alright, very good. Yes, 3 hours ka hard work you will find out now. And if you want to try out English, you can, there are a lot of English speaking courses. You can check out the BYJU'S website. It will definitely help you out. Now, leaderboard will come after 5 questions. For those of you wherein Menti is not working, please close, refresh your whole tab and come back again, right? But up until that, everybody, question number 2 on your screens now. Kannada towards the end, but my Kannada is not, I'm still learning, right? Select the incorrect statement. So you have 4 statements regarding reflex action, everyone. So quickly have a look and identify which is the incorrect. I will stress on this. Incorrect statement. Okay? Everyone quickly answer. Okay, I can see that some of you got this wrong, but most of you have got this right. Now, before I go ahead, how many of you had very less time to answer for this particular question? How many of you felt like, ma'am, I did not have enough time? Any of you felt that way? Because I feel like most of you could have answered this question. Yes, I know, the time was very less, no? Exactly. It's okay. Next time, say, we'll try to manage it, right? So I'll give you a heads up to switch to the Menti screen. But nonetheless, what is the first statement? First statement is telling that a sudden action in response to something, to the environment, right? Now, what is the keyword that this is the correct statement? It is telling sudden action. So sudden action to anything in the environment, which is nothing but, it is anything in the environment which is nothing but a stimulus, is called a reflex action. Yes, this statement is correct. The path through which signals are transmitted from receptor to the muscle is called as reflex arc. They said receptor to muscle. Muscle is nothing but effector, right? So this is also correct. Now the next one says, ma'am, motor neurons carry signal from spinal cord to effector. Yes, CNS to effector is this. This is also correct. But they're saying sensory neurons carry impulses from effector to receptor. No. Sensory neurons take it from receptor to the CNS, which is why in this case the incorrect statement is option D. Exactly. So this is the correct answer. Now those of you who have just joined us, please make sure that you like this video and you do not forget to like. Very, very important. Yes, Shashank, please ask me your doubt. Please don't hesitate to ask your doubts. You can ask me very freely, right? Now moving on to question number 3, everybody. Make sure that you have your Menti screens open so that you get good amount of time to answer, right? I hope all of you are ready. I'm giving the question now. Okay. The substance that triggers the fall of mature leaves and fruits from plants is called as what? Auxin, gibberellin, abscisic acid, cytokinin. Very, very easy question. Shashank, you can ask me your doubt, bacha. No problem. Ask it. It's okay. How to join Menti? Go to www.menti.com. Type the code 13128810. 13128810. Ma'am, here. Did I miss it? Very good, everybody. Very good. The correct answer here is option C. Shashank, you can ask me your doubt. Don't worry. So we know that in that case, abscisic acid is what promotes senescence and aging, right? The others all promote growth. Yes? So the correct answer is option C. Easy peasy, halwa question. Now moving on to the next one, everybody. Have it ready with you. Have Menti ready with you. Question number 4 on your screens, right? Yes. Involuntary actions in the body are controlled by what, right? Yes. Medulla in forebrain, medulla in midbrain, medulla in hindbrain, medulla in spinal cord. Easy. Ma'am, you try. Ma'am, try your best to distract us, but you will never. Wow, Tanishk, wow. Well said, well said. This is so easy. All of you should be getting this answer correctly. Hi, Nidhi. Hello. Very good, everybody. Very good. The correct answer here is option C. That is medulla in hindbrain, right? So we know that hindbrain has 3 parts. It has cerebellum, it has medulla, and it has pons. And involuntary actions are controlled by this. Mani Megalai, yes, half. I know Tamil, right? I'm half Tamilian. Yes. Now, coming back, that is not as important. You need to learn about control coordination. My language and what I speak is not needed. So, Mani Megalai, let's focus on the concept, right? Okay. Shashank, if you're not asking me your doubt, I've asked you multiple times, try not to spam, okay? All right. So this is very simple. Now I don't know why all of you guys got confused here, the ones who got this wrong, but I hope now you are clear, right? So last one, question number 5, after which we will have our first leaderboard. Yes? So first leaderboard that is there, we will have after this question. Okay. Choose the incorrect statement about insulin. This is a time-taking question. Incorrect statement about insulin. You have 4 options from which you need to identify the correct answer. Rahul, dormancy is nothing but where growth is not happening, right? When growth does not happen, when it remains inert, we call it as dormancy. Very good. We know that insulin is produced by pancreas. Who still has not understood this? I am hoping this is a misclick, right? Let this be a misclick because you should know where insulin is produced, right? Now, it regulates blood glucose level. Of course, it does. Deficiency disease is known as diabetes. Yes, of course. Now, it regulates growth and development of the body. Of course not, right? Which is why the correct answer here is option B. Now let's have a look at the first leaderboard. It's not my birthday, Meena, not my birthday, but thank you. Right. So now let's have a look at the leaderboard, and I can see that Dishita is at the top and is the fastest, followed by Raghavan. Then I can see Anonymous, Jeet Thakur, Agent X9, Milind Chaturvedi, Eklavya, RRT, Muskan, but why? And Zia Hashmi. 81, 78, 19. Well done, everybody. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday, guys. Don't get distracted. 54, very good. 43, good ranks, everyone. Good ranks. Well done. Very proud of all of you for doing so well. We have 10 more questions. So let's pick up the pace a little more, right? So we'll pick up the pace. All right, very good. So now everyone, question number 6 quickly on your screens. Yes, question number 6 on your screens right away. I hope all of you are ready. If you have just joined, 2 things that are there, right? 2 things that you need to do. One is like the video. Don't forget to do that. Make sure you subscribe because as you know, nowhere else will you get such amazing, videos, amazing concepts. So everybody quickly. And of course, don't forget to join Menti. So question number 6, everyone. Yes. A live class hai. This is a live class. Which of the following endocrine glands is unpaired? That means which of this following gland does not exist as a pair? Is it adrenal gland, pituitary gland, testis or ovary? Very easy question. Easy peasy one. You cannot find something easier than this, I would say. Very good, everybody. Very good. See, a pituitary gland will have 2 lobes, right? Oops, let me just delete all this. Yeah, a pituitary gland that is there will have 2 lobes, okay? But if you look at adrenal gland, we see that it's present on top of the kidneys, right? So we see that there is a picture. I mean, we know that it's paired, right? Because it's present on top of the kidneys. We know that there are a pair of testes and there are a pair of ovaries. Oviduct ka dusra naam is fallopian tube, right? Which is why pituitary gland, although can have 2 lobes, there are no 2 pituitary glands, right? There's not a pair of them. It's just one single gland having 2 lobes, which is why the unpaired one here is the pituitary gland. Very simple and easy. Now moving on to question number 7, everybody, quickly. Question number 7 on your screens now, right? So let's have a look. Dramatic changes in body features are associated with puberty that are mainly because of the secretion of what? Estrogen from testes and testosterone from ovary. Okay, you can read the options and identify which is the correct answer. Function of placenta. See, placenta mainly is a disc-shaped organ that is there that facilitates movement of substances across baby. You'll learn more about it when Ankita Maam does how do organisms. Let's try to restrict our doubts to maybe, control coordination. I only leaked half the answer. Answer A was wrong. I just read the option, right? A was not the answer given by ma'am. Okay. Estrogen from testis, how? Estrogen not produced by testis. Testosterone not from ovary. I just read the first option. That is not the answer, right? Estrogen from adrenal gland, no. Estrogen from ovary and testosterone from testis, right? Which is why the correct answer here is option C. Okay. Now moving on to the next question. Okay. Question number 8. Barkat, I understand that maybe my English is a little tough, but I would request if you can tell me what exactly you are not able to understand, I'll try to explain that part in Hindi, right? Okay, question number 8, everybody, on your screen. Any change in the environment to which an organism responds? You all should be getting this answer correctly, right? Stimulus, coordination, response hormone. Deficiency of iodine, and as a result. So Rahul, goiter is caused due to deficiency of iodine resulting in low production of thyroxine. I can see some wrong answers in the chat. Exactly. This is the basics. This is the first thing I taught you today. If you have been paying attention from class, you should get this. Not bad. Most of you got the answer correctly, so I'm happy. But guys, any change in the environment to which an organism will respond. Think of response as reaction. The word response is already there in the definition. If response is there in the definition, we are talking about stimulus. It is not coordination, because coordination is when different things come together and work together. Hormone, of course not. I think that was a misclick, which is why the correct answer is option A, stimulus. For those of you who are getting confused, I hope now you are clear. Okay? Alright, it's okay, no problem. In the PDF, I've given you a detailed definition. It will definitely help you out. Now moving on to question number 9, everyone. Question number 9 on your screens now. Okay? Galti se ho gaya, koi nahi, it's okay. Identify which among the following statements about thyroxine is incorrect. Wrong statement. Which is not true, which is wrong. Identify. Read the options and figure out the correct answer. Thank you, Shivansh. Thank you so much. पर मैथ्स में नहीं PCM मिलेगी मुझे. I think it depends on which college you're looking into, right? Okay, guys. Now, who got confused here? See, what is thyroxine? Thyroxine, ma'am, you gave answer by arrows. Exactly, I did that unintentionally. I did that, okay, but I didn't realize a lot of you would have noticed, but y'all are very smart, you've noticed that. Thyroxine is produced by thyroid gland, which is why it is also known as thyroid hormone. And to produce this, and I just told you, right, we require iodine to synthesize it, not iron. Okay, and here it says it regulates carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. They have twisted and told you, but at the end of the day, it regulates metabolic activities, right? Which is why the correct answer is option D. That is wrong about it, okay? So I hope all of you are now clear. Yes, exactly. All right. Ma'am, I was confused, but please explain it. So Devansh, like I said, no, you have to figure out what is incorrect about thyroxine. Option A, B and C were correct statements because option A said that iodine is necessary for production of thyroxine, which is true. They said that because thyroid gland produces this hormone, it is also known as thyroid hormone. That is also true. Then the third option says that it is involved in metabolic activities. That is also true. But option number 4 says that it is necessary, iron is necessary for the production of thyroxine. That is wrong, right? Okay. All right. Ma'am, math mein nahi okay. Will I get PCM? See, Kusum, don't worry. If you want to take a PCM in your future, don't worry about it. You will definitely be able to work on it. But if you are somebody who struggles with mathematics, you need to work because maths in 11th and 12th will have a lot of concepts. So you need to, brush up your basics now only, right? Ma'am, why doesn't an offspring have 46 pairs? It has 46 pairs of chromosomes. No, it will have 23 pairs. Offspring of a human will have 23 pairs of chromosomes and 46, right? ACTH, we don't need to go into it, Rahul. It's not part of NCERT syllabus. I will tell you towards the end. Anyway, okay? Let me finish this. Microscopic gap present between neurons over which nerve impulses pass through is neurotransmitter, dendrite, axon, synapse. Yes. Thank you. So sweet, innocent gamer. My name is Aishwarya though. I think you are very new, but my name is Aishwarya. Okay. Very good, everyone. Very good. Most of you have got the answer. We're talking about a fine gap that exists between two neurons. See, everything related to sex determination, I can see we are leaning towards how do organisms. Ankita Maam is coming next Tuesday with it. So, guys, keep all your doubts. She'll be helping you out with it. Very good, everybody. Very good. When you talk about a gap between two neurons, the dendritic, especially with the axonal end and the dendritic end, we know that it is a synapse, not axon, dendrite, or neurotransmitters. All right. Okay. Ma'am, question is appearing on YouTube first. I think in Menti there is a lag. That's why. Okay. So now I can see that it has changed considerably. Raghavan has come on top and is the fastest. I have Jeet Thakur, Zia, Arya, Ekalavya, Meenakshi, Muskan, Aero, Pratibha, and MLB Dreamer. Okay. All right. Okay. Very good, everybody. Very, very good. Very proud of all of you. Lots of love, lots of stars for everyone. Yes. And it's okay. See, wherever your rank is, don't worry about it, because I want to ask you one question before I do the last 5, okay? And last 5 we will do as rapid fire. We'll go quickly. Yes? So one thing I'll tell you. How many of you are feeling ki, ma'am, today control coordination ka end-to-end practice I did? I'm feeling very confident that tomorrow if I get any question, subjective, objective, whatever it may be, I will be able to help you out, right? So how many of you feel this way? How many of you feel this way? Ruhi, you can do that from the smart playlist also. No problem. That is what I want, right? So that at the end of the day is all that I am looking for. Because it's not about, see, at the end of the day, we can, when you talk about control coordination as a concept in multiple, what do you say, reference books, you will see that there's so much extra information given. But I only talk about what is necessary on an examination point of view, right? So everybody with that confidence, if you trust us now, right now you trust us that we have got you covered. So please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because it's super important that you stay subscribed so that you get notifications of all the upcoming sessions that are there. And do not forget to like this video, because that's the only way in which you show us your love, right? And yes, Arsh ma'am is there and she's like, everybody like this video. So quickly make sure that you go ahead and like it, okay? Yes, next question is going to be rapid fire round. Rahul, X chromosome does not determine it. Why? So basically the sperm, right? The sex chromosome in the male gamete determines it. But again, like I said, all questions related to how do organisms, Ankita Maam will be taking it in next class. Okay, moving on to question number 11. This is going to be rapid fire. Fatafat, we are going to go quickly with this. Growth of tendrils in pea plants is due to the what, right? What is it due to? Effect of sunlight on tendril cells facing the sun, effect of gravity on the part of tendril hanging down, rapid cell division, elongation. I am not reading the options, you know. Yes, everybody quickly. Ullas, I'll give you the answer to this very soon, right? Very, very soon I'll give you the answer. Ooh, that is good, right? Okay, so now I can see some of you got confused, right? Yes. See, Rahul, I told you I will only be tackling questions with respect to control coordination, not because I don't want to answer your doubts. It's just that we're going to have a separate class on this. So I would say that you refrain from asking doubts that are beyond this chapter, right? So yes, now let's understand this particular question. Now it says that rapid, which is correct with respect to growth of tendrils in pea plants, right? Now in this, read about it. Rapid cell division and elongation in the tendril cells that are away from the support. I told you, right? Once it comes in touch, yes? So once it comes in touch, it's not that cells are growing forward, okay? Understand that. Stimulus is here. Now from here they will start growing, okay? And as a result, this will keep getting pushed forward. It's not that it is growing, because what will happen if that is the case? If it grows, then we see that at all times the stimulus is coming, right? Which is why this right here is the correct answer. So very, very important. Hypothalamus kya hota hai? It is a part of the forebrain that regulates temperature, right? Pituitary gland and pineal gland I have already explained, right? Yes, I have already explained pituitary and pineal gland, all right? Okay. Now moving on to the next one. Yes, next question number 12, everybody, on your screens quickly. So you have an assertion reason question. Yes, assertion reason question. Cyton region of the nerve fiber collects information for the brain. Reason being that nerve fibers can either have or they lack myelin sheath. Yes, okay. This is a very, very simple question. Take your time. Okay. Now I can see that a lot of you got confused here. It says cyton region, right? Ma'am is not clearing my doubt. Study Adda, I missed your question. You can go ahead. See, a nerve fiber is another name for axon, right? Now they are saying, right? They are saying that cyton region of nerve fiber. How does this make sense? What is cyton of axon? Is cyton of axon anything? Have you learnt about it? What is cyton axon? No, right? Cyton region of the nerve fiber that is there collects information. No, this is false, right? Because we know if they said that the dendritic region, if they say dendritic region of cyton, then will the statement be correct? Cyton of neuron would have been sensible. Exactly. If they said cyton of nerve cell, cyton of neuron, right? So that is something that is there. Now in this case, if they say dendritic of cyton, fine, you can think about it, right? But in this case, they're saying that nerve fibers can either have or lack myelin sheath. This is true. You remember I explained to you, right? We see that if myelin sheath is present, we call such neurons as myelinated neurons, right? Or we call them as myelinated nerve cells. But there are some which can be non-myelinated also. It can be non-myelinated, which is why in this case this is true. So assertion statement is true, false, but the reason statement is true. Okay? All right, last three questions. Everybody get your Josh up high. Last three questions, right? Paracalcitonin is again, it is necessary for regulating, right? It regulates the calcium levels. Study Adda. Calcium levels of the body. Question number 13. Moving on. Which is the correct sequence of components of reflex arc, right? You have four options from which you need to identify the correct answer. What is the difference between reflex action and human heart? Reflex action is a sudden involuntary action, while heartbeat that is there is a normal involuntary action. It's not sudden. It is an involuntary action that is constantly happening. That's amazing, Rahul. That is amazing. Devansh, we've been talking about this all day, bacha, on reflex arc. You can go back, rewind and watch it, right? Yes, okay. Ma'am, all are wrong because CNS is not there. Very proud. But it's okay. From these options, let's figure it out. It's fine. Let's assume that this was something related to our hands or legs, right? Some reflex that was there. Very good, everybody. I'm very proud that most of you have got this answer correctly, right? So rhythm of sleep or biological clock is controlled by our pineal gland. Okay, Joshika? Now moving on, the correct answer is option D. You've got it correctly. Now moving on to question number 14, everybody. Question number 14 on your screens. Again, it's an assertion reason question. Insulin regulates blood sugar levels. Reason being that insufficient secretion of insulin will cause diabetes. I am not completely aligned with what the answer might be, right? Because technically an assertion reason, okay, I'll not say anything now. You can go to the website, Rahul, you'll be able to find everything. Yes, okay. So this is something that I am very surprised, right? But I told you that there is something fishy about the question itself. And I know when I saw you all giving the answer, I told you something is not right. Now let me tell you, what is assertion reason question? You will have one statement given to you, right? Reason should be the reason for this. How is it that the reason for why insulin regulates blood sugar level, the fact that insufficient insulin will cause diabetes? It is nowhere related. Nowhere related. Okay. I know. See, that's where assertion reason ka tactic should come. How do you decide assertion and reason? Right? Assertion is a statement given to you. And reason ideally should be telling you. Right? It should be giving the reason for assertion. Okay. It should tell you that, okay, Aishwarya Ma'am loves Aishwarya Ma'am is a teacher of biology. Reason, Aishwarya Ma'am loves biology. So why am I teaching biology? Because I love the subject, right? So there should be a reason, a why. Always add a why. Insulin regulates blood sugar level. Why? The answer should be in your reason. If the answer is not there in a reason, it is not the correct reason, right? So that is how you should approach, which is why both statements were true, but this was not the incorrect, this is not the correct reason to it. Are we clear? I hope all of you are clear, right? Yes, all right. Joshika, I don't know the answer to that, so let's move ahead, right? Ma'am, but my school ma'am said A. No. I mean, if it might be, but this is how you approach, right? So probably, I think there is a confusion there. But assertion reason ka approach should be in this manner, all right? All right, moving on to the next one. Question number 15, last question. Yes. Electrical impulses travels in a neuron from where to where? Yes? You have a flow chart, identify the current pathway. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, but please don't spam bacha. Don't spam on the chat. Now, in the meanwhile, all of you, once Menti is done, everybody, ma'am, tata, bye, bye, I'm going. But in the meanwhile, everybody, please make sure that all of you have liked this video. And I hope all of you have subscribed to the channel, because I see that a lot of you enjoyed today's class. And if you have, please make sure that you show me your love by liking the video and subscribing, right? That's the least that I ask you. Yes, ma'am. Amazing questions in Menti. Exactly. Very good. So see, we bring you a lot of amazing questions. And if you want to show love to the team also, if you love today's questions, you tell us in the chat also, right? In the comment section of this video, as soon as the live is over, you go to the comment and you tell BYJU'S team, amazing work. You have helped me a lot today. It means a lot to the team as well when they see your comments, right? So don't forget to do that today also. So as we know, electrical impulse are received by the dendrite, go to cell body, axon, and then reach the axonal end, from which it goes through the synapse to the next one, right? So with this, of course, we come to the end of today's class. We'll have a look at the last leaderboard. Let's have a look, everyone. Yes, all right. Okay. So as we know, the correct all three, right? I would say that all three leaderboards, I saw that there were so many, there were drastic differences in the leaderboard. So many teachers coming up and down that are there. I mean, so many students coming up and down. But at the end of the day, well done Muskan with 12,782 points. I can see Pratibha, Madhvi, who's the fastest, Prashant, Jeet, Raghavan, Meenakshi, Ekalavya, MLB Dreamer, and Dr. Runa. Well done all of you. Very proud of the amazing work that you have done, because I know that it's not easy, right, to sit through 3 hours and 50 minutes, listen to one teacher, stay focused and prepare. But the way you are all working so hard, I'm telling you, you will find the fruits of your hard work, right? And you know that at the end of the day, with this, we have completed everything. Right? We have finished our chapter summary, we have finished our 5 hacks, we have finished our subjective and objective questions. And with this, control coordination is done. Now, of course, everybody, you know that we've got you covered no matter what. I will be looking out for your comments. And as you know, BYJU'S 6 to 8, we are having classes. We are going to be having a lot of more classes coming your way. 2,000 plus hours of free content for all of you to study and do well in your exams, right? So, what do you need to do? Just make sure that you stay subscribed to our channel, because we will have a lot more interesting things coming your way. Take care of yourself, eat well, sleep well, don't be stressed, take care of your mental health, and trust me, we've got you covered. And I will be seeing you all soon. Up until then, everybody, take care. Thank you for being the best bunch of students that I will be teaching. And for all the students who are watching this later on as a premiered video, lots of love to everyone. See you all soon, everybody. Up until then, thank you and take care and good night.